Chapter 39:43. The assistant director's face was full of worry as he said, "Look, we've been choosing and choosing, but we haven't picked anyone." Liang Yin stood at the side, bored to death. She was sizing up the people coming and going. On average, 1 out of 5 people was a big star. She watched them with great interest. Usually, she wouldn't have such an opportunity to be in close contact with these big stars. She would only catch a few glances on TV. At the film studio, any one of them would be a star. Liang Yin was already used to it. It wasn't like her first day on set, when she was surrounded by big stars and felt a little uneasy. Now, she had a normal attitude toward stars. She felt that these stars were good at acting and were pretty, but they were actually no different from ordinary people. Especially after spending so much time with Hua Jin, she felt that stars were also ordinary people. It was just entertainment that gave them the halo of idols. Hua Jin chatted with the assistant director for a while. Then he turned around and called out to Liang Yin, "Liang Yin, go in." Liang Yin turned around, nodded, and walked towards Hua Jin. Seeing Liang Yin beside Hua Jin, the assistant director's eyes lit up. "Hua Jin, who is this?" Oh, Hua Jin introduced her, "My assistant. Are all your assistants so pretty? I don't remember you being this assistant before. Are you talking about Xiaoqi?" Hua Jin got angry at the mention of Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi was currently doing advanced training at the company's headquarters. When she came back, he would find a chance to get rid of her. He was a very vengeful person, especially after seeing Xiaoqi's ugly face. He was secretly certain that when he had the chance, he would get rid of her. The assistant director, on the other hand, was sizing up Liang Yin seriously. His gaze was full of admiration, and he praised her from time to time. "Your assistant looks quite like a star. What's her name?" Liang Yin smiled and introduced herself naturally. "Liang Yin. Liang Yin. That's a good name." As the assistant director spoke, he smiled and asked Liang Yin, "Do you want to come for the audition?" "Now, there's an empty role in the production team, and we're worried that we can't find a suitable candidate." Liang Yin was a little surprised. She did not expect to be invited to an audition. When Hua Jin heard this, he was also a little surprised. However, he had originally thought that since there was an opportunity, he might as well let Liang Yin have a try. After all, her image was not bad and her acting skills were also very good. He belonged to the gifted type. He originally wanted to wait until dinner to ask for Liang Yin's opinion. But he did not expect that the assistant director would choose Liang Yin at first glance and invite her. Hua Jin also felt that Liang Yin could give a try. "Are you willing?" As she was Hua Jin's assistant, the assistant director's attitude was more polite. Liang Yin glanced at Hua Jin, as if asking for his opinion. Hua Jin immediately said, "If you're willing, you can give it a try." "Okay." Liang Yin smiled and said, "It's my honor." "That's good." The assistant director nodded and said, "Tomorrow afternoon, you will follow Hua Jin to the set and recite a few lines. If Director Gu sees it and says it's okay, then you'll pass." As the role of the female lead was not very important, the basic knowledge of lines and acting skills were not particularly demanding. It mainly depended on one's state and looks. Chapter 39:44. The assistant director still had something to do. He said goodbye to Hua Jin and left in a hurry. Liang Yin watched as the assistant director left. She turned around and glanced at Hua Jin. She was obviously a little conflicted. "Audition. I didn't expect to receive an audition invitation." Hua Jin smiled and pushed the door open. As he walked toward the private room, he said, "Do you like acting? I didn't like it before, but after interacting with it, I find it interesting." When Hua Jin heard this, his lips curled into a smile. "Filming isn't that easy. In your eyes, you might think that acting is just about having a lot of money, a lot of fans, limitless glory, and everyone knows your name. But in reality, acting is not that simple. You might be slandered, spread rumors, or even be subjected to online violence. When people scold you, you can't talk back. Why? Because you're a public figure." Hua Jin said, "Even if you use a fake account to scold people, you'll still suffer a lot if the netizens find out. That's scary. But if you have a strong background, no one will dare to touch you." "I don't have a strong background." Liang Yin was a little scared. After all, she didn't particularly like acting. She was interested in acting because the pay was high, and sometimes she felt that acting was quite fun. But if it was really as scary as Hua Jin said, she was a little scared. But you can sign a contract with Qin Zhou. Hua Jin smiled mischievously. If you become his artist, won't you have a lot of opportunities to interact with him? Agent? An agent is the agent of an artist's career. A good agent has a lot of resources and can help you with everything outside of work. Liang Yin was a little moved when she heard this. She admired Qin Zhou. She felt that Qin Zhou had a very mature temperament. It was a charm that men of Tang Yu and Hua Jin's age didn't have. Many girls liked men who were older than them, mature, steady, reliable, and gave them a sense of security. She wasn't a shy person. If she liked someone, she would say it directly. Is he willing to sign me? Hua Jin said, I'll help you find out later. All right, Liang Yin said with a smile. After it's done, I'll treat you to something delicious. Who cares? Also, keep your distance from me. If you cause another soul misalignment, I'll definitely jump off a building. When Liang Yin heard this, she also kept a distance from him with lingering fear, especially when they passed by the fountain in the courtyard. The two of them were especially vigilant. As the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. After lunch, the two of them went back home. Liang Yin accompanied Hua Jin to go through the script. Hua Jin also gave her the lines for Ubuteri. Liang Yin took it back and memorized it seriously. The next day, Hua Jin brought Liang Yin to the set. He acted, while Liang Yin was brought to the audition by the assistant director. When Hua Jin finished filming, he saw that Liang Yin was already sitting in the waiting area. However, her expression was a little strange. It was indescribably strange. He walked over and asked her, how was the audition? It was okay. Okay. This word seemed a little ambiguous. Liang Yin's expression was obviously not right. Chapter 3945. Director Gu is quite satisfied with me, but the assistant director said that I did well in the audition. However, there is another person who wants the role. If I want to act, I have to go through a second round of auditions. A second round of auditions? When Hua Jin heard this, he didn't think much of it. Usually, there's only one round of auditions. Why would there be a second round? Is the assistant director trying to take advantage of you? Take advantage of me? Hua Jin nodded and said, yes. After all, the roles in this production are all highly sought after. Basically, once you act in it, you'll be famous. There are many small-time actresses who want to act in it, but Director Gu has always looked down on them. The assistant director has been racking his brains over this matter. I think he wants to use this opportunity to get some benefits from you. Money? Yes. I also thought that he wanted to use this as an excuse to ask me for packaging fees, so I asked him indirectly. He said that I don't need to pay for packaging fees. Hua Jin felt that it was even more strange. So, when is the second round of auditions? Liang Yin answered honestly, tonight. Tonight? Yes, I'll go to his room. He said that he wants me to act one more time so that he can think about it carefully. As Liang Yin said this, her expression became even more strange. But won't it be too suspicious if I go to his room tonight? He won't want to sleep with me, will he? When Hua Jin heard this, his face darkened. He wants you to go to his room? Tonight? Yes. Do you even need to ask? When Hua Jin heard this, he was also very angry. He sat beside her and said, you're not allowed to go. He obviously wants to sleep with you. When you go into his room, you won't be able to tell how many people are in a room and whether you can walk out of it. This assistant director also had a criminal record. Rather than a criminal record, it was more like one was willing to be hit and the other was willing to be hit. As the assistant director, he was in charge of the casting process. Other than the roles that the sponsors and the director had assigned, the other roles depended on what he said. Naturally, there would be people who want to climb up the ladder. In fact, there were many of them. However, this assistant director was known for his ugly table manners in the industry. He was quite ruthless when it came to playing with women, especially when he used the excuse of discussing the script to invite two popular actresses to talk about the script. It would have been fine if it was just the unspoken rules, but he had already instructed the paparazzi to release the news in advance and take pictures of the two actresses following him into the hotel. Then, He held on to these photos and waited for the drama to finish filming and enter the promotional period. Then, he casually released these photos, but it was still considered a sensation for a while. In reality, no one cared about these two young actresses. All they cared about was the dark side of the entertainment industry that no one knew about. Because of this, the show became popular and was bought over by a media website at a high price. The viewership ratings also broke records. However, the reputations of these two young actresses had been completely ruined. They had been used as stepping stones, and there was no place for them to cry. Later on, she had plastic surgery, changed her name, and took on a few dramas, but they were all lukewarm. As for this assistant director, because of the unbreakable publicity, he was still doing well. The entertainment industry was like this. It was an abyss of suffering. It was easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to defend against a stab in the dark. In order to rise and fall in the industry, it depended on who was ruthless enough. Usually, those who stood at the top were those who could go all out. Chapter 39:46. Liang Yin still had a lingering fear when she heard this. Luckily, she had reported this matter to Hua Jin in advance, because she also felt that it was quite suspicious. That was why she had her suspicions and told Hua Jin about it. She didn't expect that there would be so much involved. Then I won't go. Liang Yin knew that this opportunity was very precious. If she didn't go, she might even offend the assistant director. However, she really didn't want to come into contact with such things. If this was the price to pay for being famous, she was willing to give it up. Sigh. Liang Yin had underestimated her own experience. Hua Jin saw her disappointed look and comforted her. It's okay. It's not like this role is the only thing you want. Later, I'll ask Qinzhou to see if there are any vacancies in the cast. No need. Liang Yin smiled and said, Actually, I think being an assistant is pretty good. I can help you with the scenes and also be a bystander. In this industry, there were often some shocking things that could be gossiped about. Although it was quite world-shattering, Liang Yin was used to it. She enjoyed the gossip. Hua Jin didn't take it to heart. After all, Liang Yin didn't seem to take it to heart either. At night, Hua Jin was reading the script when his cell phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and realized that it was the assistant director. There were two assistant directors in the cast. One was in name, and the other was in charge of casting and high-level affairs. His name was Meng Hao. Hua Jin didn't give him a contact number, but there was a group account in the cast. Looking at this account, Hua Jin recognized that it was Meng Hao. Usually, Meng Hao wouldn't call him unless it was something important. He guessed that this must have something to do with Liang Yin. When he picked up the phone, the other party asked directly, Hua Jin, what's wrong with your assistant? Didn't you say that there's an audition tonight? Why don't I see her? Also, I can't get through to her cell phone. Director Meng, I've heard about what happened today. I was the one who told Liang Yin not to go. Liang Yin is innocent. You can fool her, but can you fool me? Do you think I don't know what you're planning? In this industry, if you want to be in a film, you have to go all out. But Liang Yin is my assistant. Even if you want to give me face, you shouldn't do this. That's fine, but you actually came to me to ask for him? There was a deathly silence on the other side. After a long time, Meng Hao smiled. He naturally expected that Liang Yin must have told Hua Jin about this matter, so he didn't avoid it. After all, she was just an assistant. She expected that Hua Jin would at most turn a blind eye to it and not care about it. Meng Hao had taken a liking to Liang Yin. With Liang Yin's looks, it was definitely rare to see someone like her in the entertainment industry. Many celebrities in the entertainment industry had their looks altered, but they often looked like the product of an abortion line. This included the newcomers, who had undergone plastic surgery to look like popular actresses. Yun Shih, who had been popular for a while, had such a pure and innocent face. She was already a little tired of looking at all these faces. There weren't many natural beauties like Liang Yin. She was definitely a treasure. The more Meng Hao looked at her, the more he liked her. Aya, this is an inevitable process. You should know. Who doesn't come here at this time? If you can't even accept this, how can you stay in the entertainment industry? Chapter 39:47. When he said this, Meng Hao was immediately displeased. Even his tone became lukewarm. Hua Jin, you're not ordinary now. You're famous. Don't forget how you got to where you are in the past. You're looking down on the unspoken rules. Don't you think that your unbearable past is a stain that you can never erase? Do you think that the past doesn't matter now that you're famous? Huh. Hua Jin is just an assistant. Do you have to be so protective of her? When Hua Jin heard this, his face turned pale. Then he retorted, Director Meng, let's talk about the facts. If you want to use the unspoken rules on my assistant, then let's talk about it openly. I can't say anything if a man and a woman are willing. But don't you think that's too disgusting to deceive her? Perhaps it was this word that enraged Meng Hao. My mother doesn't even think that you're disgusting. Who knows what kind of person your assistant is? She pretends not to know. But since she wants to be in this industry, don't she know how complicated it is? Why are you pretending to be innocent? Don't act anymore. Get out of here. When Hua Jin heard this, he was completely enraged. If it weren't for people like you who break the rules of the industry, would actors like to be used by the unspoken rules? When one entered this industry, there were too many things that were beyond one's control. There were different levels of actors and actresses, and gradually, there was a foul atmosphere. It was these directors and capitalists who condoned this atmosphere that made many people willing to use the unspoken rules to get to where they were. As for those who truly had strength and principles, they were buried. Don't make it sound so nice. Aren't people like you just chasing after fame and fortune? Isn't that what you want? You're still pretending to be obedient after getting benefits? What a pompous statement. All right, that's enough. Meng Hao interrupted him impatiently. Haha, people like you are at the bottom of this industry. People like you deserve to please us. No matter how glorious you are, you'll be under us for the rest of your life. With that, the phone was hung up harshly. Hua Jin stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, holding his phone. He was so angry that he was trembling. Damn it. People like you, no matter how glorious you are, will be suppressed by us for the rest of your lives. These words were like a stab to his heart. Hua Jin clenched his fists. The old scars in his heart were ruthlessly torn open. Even the scabs and skin were badly mangled. Hua Jin. Liang Yin's weak voice suddenly came from behind. Hua Jin didn't dare to turn around and let her see him in such a sorry state. Liang Yin was just about to return the script when she heard Hua Jin arguing with someone through the door. Worried, she swiped the room card and heard Hua Jin and Meng Hao arguing. She felt especially upset when she heard that. She didn't know why, but when she looked at Hua Jin's lonely back, she actually felt an incomparable heartache. She walked over gently and held his shoulder carefully. Hua Jin, are you okay? Hua Jin shook his head and said, I'm fine. Liang Yin looked at him quietly, feeling a little upset. She remembered how Qin Zhou looked a little distressed when he talked about Hua Jin during breakfast in the morning. Actually, I don't manage artists anymore, but Hua Jin is the only one I've made an exception for. Chapter 3948. She didn't like Hua Jin in the past because there were rumors that Hua Jin acted like a big shot and bullied newcomers and actors in the same crew. That was just his defiance. Defiance against the rules of the entertainment industry. Defiance against those who were suppressing him. Unlike many other artists, he was forced to enter the entertainment industry. Even though he floated in the big dive vat that was the entertainment industry, he still managed to maintain the innocence of a child. Liang Yi knew about his past. No wonder he reacted so violently when he found out that the director had asked her to talk about the script at night. Liang Yin, I regret it. As Hua Jin spoke, he turned around with a sullen expression. You'd better never step into this industry. You can't afford to lose. He was the victim, so why did he have to drag Liang Yin into this? There is too much darkness and unfairness in this industry to begin with. Liang Yin shouldn't have stepped into this industry. Liang Yin paused for a moment and smiled. I used to think that you were a perverse and rebellious idol boy. Actually, Hua Jin, haven't you realized that you're a very gentle person? When Hua Jin heard this, he didn't understand why she said that. Gentle, although you always say mean things, you've always been taking care of others. Thank you. Thank you for thinking so much for me. Hua Jin and Liang Yin looked at each other and smiled. Liang Yin giggled and said, Moreover, if I really enter the industry, many actresses won't be able to make a living. Hua Jin couldn't help but retort, What do you mean by that? Look, someone with good acting skills and good looks like me gets paid so cheaply. Isn't it obvious that I'm stealing their jobs? When Hua Jin heard this, he couldn't help but laugh. Puffed. That's right. Liang Yin couldn't help but reach out her hand and rub his face as if she was coaxing a child. Aya, why are you so cute when you laugh? Hua Jin was angry and amused at the same time. He slapped her hand away. Stop fooling around. I'm serious. Liang Yin pouted. You should smile more. Hua Jin curled his lips into a half-smile and raised his hand to pinch her cheek. The next day, Liang Yin had something to do and was not in the hotel. Hua Jin was filming and coincidentally bumped into the assistant director. Speaking of which, it was rather strange. Last night, Meng Hao and Hua Jin had gotten into a huge argument over the phone. When they met in front of Director Gu, Meng Hao smiled cheekily at Hua Jin. However, Hua Jin did not give him much face and rolled his eyes at him. When Meng Hao saw this, he was furious, but he had no choice but to swallow his anger. Just as Meng Hao was about to take advantage of the time Hua Jin finished filming to have a talk with him, Qin Zhou unexpectedly came to visit. It was rare for Qin Zhou to visit. For the first time, she came to visit him at work, catching Hua Jin off guard. Why are you here? Qin Zhou didn't know why he had come to visit. He just wanted to come for no reason. He did not answer Hua Jin's question directly. Instead, he sat in the waiting area like a big boss. Hua Jin immediately served the big boss tea. Big boss Qin spoke. I don't think I've come to visit you since you started filming. So, since I'm free today, I'm here to see you, lest you look like an orphan. Hua Jin was speechless. Qin Zhou suddenly thought of something. He recalled Hua Jin's reaction when he saw him and smiled. You seem to know that I already know about that matter. What matter? The matter that you've switched back. Chapter 3949. You're such an astute person. How could you not notice that something was wrong? When Qin Zhou heard that, he felt that it made sense. What I said really came true. When I woke up in the morning, I realized that it had already been returned. Hua Jin still had some lingering fear. You can say that I borrowed your words. Then, Qin Zhou's lips suddenly curled into a sinister smile. Do you mean what you said? What do you mean? Do you mean what you said about me counts? Hua Jin did not react at first, but he nodded naturally. Yes, of course. Wait. He stared blankly with his eyes wide open. What do you mean? Qin Zhou reminded him calmly. I remember that you said that if you want to change back, you want to run naked. Hua Jin was petrified. He furrowed his eyebrows and said guiltily, It's just a joke. It's just a joke. How can you take it seriously? Are you a man? Yeah. Qin Zhou said disdainfully. A man's word is worth 1,000 gold, even if it's just a fart. Hua Jin controlled himself and immediately said, Since you said so, what else can I say? Let's talk about this when we're back at the hotel. What's the point of going back to the hotel? Qin Zhou hinted with his eyes. Look, there's so many people here. Why don't you show off your body? Who knows? There might be reporters here, and tomorrow's headlines will be yours. Hua Jin could not help but shudder. He could even predict what the news would say about him. Popular young actor Hua Jin has mental disorder, stripped naked and ran naked on set. No way. Hua Jin's stand was firm. I was just joking. Do you really want me to run naked? Qin Zhou said in an old-fashioned manner. Who knows? If you run naked tomorrow, Huan Yu's shares will double tomorrow. Hua Jin clenched his fists and complained. What a scary capitalist. Qin Zhou urged. Enough. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up. No. Strip. No. Strip. Qin Zhou seemed to take it seriously. He stood up all of a sudden. With his tall stature, his aura was almost 2 meters tall. Hua Jin was instantly terrified. He cupped his fists and begged for mercy. Boss, don't be like this. I can even perform a striptease for you in a hotel. This. Are you serious or are you joking? Do you think I'm joking with you? Hua Jin immediately moved 3 feet away from him. Stop fooling around. All right, stop messing around. Qin Zhou added, I'm really not interested in your body. Hua Jin, where's your little assistant? Qin Zhou returned to his seat and asked, Why haven't I seen her today? She has something to do, so she has to go home. What is it? When Hua Jin heard this, he frowned and glanced at him suspiciously. He sniffed. Seeing him sniffing like a puppy, Qin Zhou said in disdain, What are you sniffing for? Adultery. The smell of love. Hua Jin winked and said, Why are you so concerned about her today? Is it strange that I'm concerned about my employee? Hua Jin said seriously. Even if she's your personal employee, it's strange for you to ask more than a second question. Qin Zhou, don't tell me you're interested in her? Without waiting for Qin Zhou to speak, Hua Jin justified himself. That's true. After all, we share the same bed. Strictly speaking, it's also a short-lived marriage. Chapter 3950. Yesterday, Meng Hao invited Liang Yin for an audition. After the audition, Director Gu was quite satisfied. Meng Hao. Qin Zhou recognized the name. Meng Hao's table manners are notoriously ugly in this circle. Why did Liang Yin want to audition? Does she want to act? She seems to be interested in acting. Qin Zhou thought about it. Since she passed the audition and Director Gu was very satisfied, what's next? Hua Jin said. Meng Hao invited her to a hotel tonight to talk about the luminous script. Luminous script? When Qin Zhou heard this, his eyebrows furrowed. This word had a deep meaning in the industry. There were often directors and producers who used the excuse of talking about the script to invite new actors or celebrities who wanted to act. They would go to the hotel under the guise of talking about the script and do inappropriate things. Of course, this did not only happen to male directors. Some older artists with more experience and resources were not limited to men and women. The object of this unspoken rule was also not limited to men and women. Especially many male directors, men and women had different tastes. The sexual orientation of many directors was a mystery. Qin Zhou knew that Meng Hao liked to play with women. Sometimes, he would also play with some of the new young men. It was quite disgusting. Qin Zhou had been in the industry for so many years, and countless women had been sent to his door. It was not that he was not moved, but he felt that it was dirty. It was not that he felt that those who did not hesitate to sell their bodies for fame and fame were dirty. It was that he felt that this kind of transaction was too dirty. He did not touch it. Although walking by the river often, who would not wet their shoes? But Qin Zhou did not know what it was. It was as if he was made of steel, and his determination was extremely terrifying. However, there was one thing that everyone in the industry tacitly agreed on. No one dared to touch Qin Zhou's people. No matter how low their status was, as long as they were under Qin Zhou, no matter how crazy they would not dare to touch a hair on them. Therefore, many newcomers who signed with Huan Yu dreamed of being under Qin Zhou. Because if they became Qin Zhou's artists, not only would the resources be explosively good, but they would also not have to go through those ugly, unspoken rules. In this industry, even if they did not take the initiative to offer themselves, sometimes they could not help but be selected by the boss. They had to accompany him. If he didn't accompany them, it meant that he wasn't giving them any face. If it was light, they would withdraw their cooperation. If it was heavy, they would be banned from the internet. But Qin Zhou had the confidence and ability to do so. No one dared to do anything to his artists. Even if there were some that didn't know what was good for them, they would be beaten back in a few seconds. How dare Meng Hao? I wonder who Liang Yin belongs to. Although Liang Yin was only Hua Jin's assistant on the surface, since she was Hua Jin's assistant, Liang Yin's people were also his people. Meng Hao actually dared to have such an idea. No wonder he saw Meng Hao heading towards Hua Jin's resting place when he arrived. I had a fight with Meng Hao yesterday. What is it? He scolded me for not being tactful. Hua Jin was like a primary school student complaining to his teacher. He told Qin Zhou about his argument with Meng Hao last night. When Qin Zhou heard this, his expression did not change, but it was obvious that he was angry. All right, I got it. He said, I'll handle it. Just focus on your acting. When Hua Jin heard this, he nodded silently. In the afternoon, Qin Zhou asked Meng Hao to meet. When Meng Hao found out that Qin Zhou had summoned him, he felt a little guilty. Chapter 3951. It would be fine if Hua Jin didn't take it to heart. But if he took it to heart and word got to Qin Zhou, he would be in deep trouble. Who was Qin Zhou? He was the boss of Huan Yu. Although Huan Yu was a branch of Xingyu Financial Group on the surface, and Mu Yaja was the main legal representative of Huan Yu. In fact, the real power of Huan Yu had long been in Qin Zhou's hands. Mu Yaja had already handed over the real power of Huan Yu to Qin Zhou. If it weren't for their strong friendship, he would never have ceded such a big Huan Yu to Qin Zhou. This showed that Qin Zhou and Mu Yaja had a good relationship. Most importantly, everyone knew that Mu Yaja's wife, Yin Shishir, was an artist under Qin Zhou. Although Yin Shishir did not stop acting after giving birth to a little princess, she was no longer as active as before. She would occasionally take on high-quality female lead roles or attend some charity events. Basically, she would decline to participate in variety shows. It could be said that she had pretty much disappeared without a trace. But under Qin Zhou's operation, as long as Yin Shishir acted in a TV series or movie, it would definitely be the most popular. Whether it was the ratings or the box office, they were all second to none. What a terrifying operation to create such a situation. Qin Zhou was now mainly in charge of the operation of Huan Yu. The only artist who was more active under him was Hua Jin. It could be said that Qin Zhou's focus now was all on Hua Jin. Meng Hao was also sure that offending Hua Jin would undoubtedly offend Qin Zhou indirectly. So, the next day, he thought about trying to apologize to Hua Jin. In the end, in front of Director Gu, Hua Jin didn't even pay attention to him. Meng Hao was embarrassed. Director Gu also realized that something was wrong and couldn't help but ask what was going on and if he had offended Hua Jin. How could Meng Hao admit it? He was still angry. He had obviously lowered his status, but Hua Jin didn't even look at him, which made him very embarrassed. Director Gu added, "Luckily, you didn't offend Hua Jin. If you had offended Hua Jin, it would be equivalent to offending Qin Zhou." The consequences of offending Qin Zhou were self-evident. Meng Hao couldn't sit still anymore. Therefore, he thought of looking for an opportunity to have a good chat with Hua Jin and get closer to him. In the end, when she went to the waiting area, she bumped into Qin Zhou. She quickly left with her tail between her legs. Not long after, he received a call from Qin Zhou. On the phone, Qin Zhou's tone was still calm, saying that he had something to discuss with him. Meng Hao suddenly had a bad premonition. He felt that Qin Zhou's invitation to him was more like a Hongmen banquet. Although Meng Hao felt guilty, he still mustered up his courage and perfunctorily replied. No matter what, since Qin Zhou had asked him out, he had to go. Qin Zhou was also here. The two of them met at a coffee shop near the set. As soon as Qin Zhou sat down, Meng Hao's entire body tensed up. The man in front of him was clearly in his 30s, but he still looked like he was in his 20s. He was even older than Hua Jin. However, even though he looked young, his body had a dignified aura. Even though he was smiling, it still made people shudder. Meng Hao respectfully handed him a cigarette. Chapter 3952. As Meng Hao spoke, he was about to light the cigarette. Qin Zhou did not take the cigarette. Instead, he lit a cigarette, took a puff, and gently flicked it into the ashtray. He narrowed his eyes and asked, "I heard that you went for an audition with Liang Yin. Is that true?" When he heard that Qin Zhou had indeed asked him out for an audition, he could not sit still any longer. "Yes," Qin Zhou exhaled a puff of smoke and said casually, "I also heard that you asked her to meet you at a hotel tonight for the second audition." Yes. She is not familiar with the script, so I wanted to take it a step further." Meng Hao found an excuse, but this excuse was clearly useless in front of Qin Zhou. A step further? Qin Zhou caught on to these three words and became interested. What step further? I heard that Director Meng has some rules. I heard that the real audition is usually done in bed. Meng Hao's sitting posture became more anxious. He quickly changed the topic. This Liang Yin, could she be one of CEO Qin's people? Qin Zhou knocked on the table to remind him not to play tricks. I'm not asking you a question. You haven't answered. Meng Hao immediately laughed awkwardly. CEO Qin, what are you talking about? What do you mean by audition in bed? CEO Qin should know the rules of this industry. In our line of work, we face a lot of pressure every day when we're casting. Moreover, these women come to us one after another. In other words, Meng Hao was pushing the blame onto Liang Yin, implying that Liang Yin had come to him on her own accord. Qin Zhou was even more displeased when he heard this. What you're saying is that my men are going to send themselves to your doorstep for you to infiltrate. Meng Hao couldn't sit still anymore. Isn't that? I didn't even touch her with a finger. Meng Hao frowned and decided to be frank. Boss Qin, I figured out why you asked me to meet you this time. You're here to seek justice for Liang Yin, aren't you? Since that's what you mean, I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill. This matter hasn't even happened yet. However, after hearing what you said, I also know that from now on, as long as it's your people, even if it's just a small assistant, I won't dare to touch them. I'll give you my word, all right. He felt a little aggrieved. If he slept with this person, then he would feel a little guilty when they came knocking on his door. However, before he could even take a bite of the fat meat in front of him, Qin had already interrogated him. He couldn't help but feel a little displeased. Qin saw the change in his expression. Qin raised his eyebrows, picked up the coffee cup, and took a sip. There was a long silence. Meng Hao couldn't sit still any longer. He stood up and bowed to Qin. There's still work to be done on set. I'm in a hurry to go back. Hee. Chairman Qin, please take a seat first. As he spoke, he pretended to leave. Qin, on the other hand, appeared to be neither hurried nor slow. He did not even lift his eyelids as he asked, "Did I allow you to leave? I remember when we first met, you were still a small-time producer. Now that you've been promoted to assistant director and have more experience, you're looking down on others." Huh? Chapter 39:53. He had originally wanted to find an excuse to leave, but now that Qin had said that, how could he dare to leave? He didn't even know if he could walk out of this cafe. It was said that Qin methods were ruthless. In the industry, no one dared to provoke him because he always won by surprise, making it impossible to guard against him. It wasn't that he liked to backstab people. Instead, he used his power to oppress people. Qin had a lot of power, and he knew that he had a lot of power. Hence, he used it to oppress people. He was a person who hated trouble. If he could solve it with power, he didn't want to waste his energy. Meng Hao didn't know what Qin's motive was, so he decided to lay his cards on the table. CEO Qin, may I ask what you mean by this? Why don't you tell me directly? If I can compensate you, I will do my best to do so. Qin said slowly, I'm just a little surprised. I didn't think that there would be someone in this industry who would dare to offend my people. That's why I find it a little unbelievable. Meng Hao quickly said, I didn't think of it first. Now I know that I didn't know the rules. Next time, I definitely won't do it again. Qin said, I think that since she has passed the interview, Director Gu is quite satisfied with Liang Yin's performance. Then, why don't we let her join the cast directly? However, after she joins the cast, please avoid her when you see her. When Meng Hao heard this and saw that Qin actually proposed this condition, he agreed 120%. Okay. From now on, I will treat Liang Yin like a grandaunt. Don't worry, I will definitely not let anyone make things difficult for her. After she joins the cast, give her the best assistant and makeup artist, understand? Okay. Also, the plot of Ubisoft Bird will be increased. Meng Hao looked a little hesitant. Qin looked at his troubled expression and immediately said, in the original novel, Ubisoft Bird was very important in the plot. In order to emphasize the role of the other female supporting character, the scriptwriter cut out many of her scenes. Meng Hao asked, CEO Qin, have you read the script? Yes. Okay. Meng Hao nodded with a serious expression. I'll get the editor to change the script when I get back. Okay. Then, Meng Hao asked cautiously, can I leave now? Qin didn't say anything, but he didn't ask him to stay either. Seeing that Qin had tacitly agreed, Meng Hao immediately left with his tail between his legs. In the evening, Liang Yin received a call from Meng Hao. She thought Meng Hao was calling to harass her, so she did not pick up. Not long after, Meng Hao sent a message to say that Qin had spoken to him in the afternoon. He solemnly apologized to Liang Yin and said that he could directly arrange for her to join the set. Moreover, he had already contacted the scriptwriter to change the plot. The plot of Ubutaro would become more serious. Liang Yin was shocked. She didn't expect that Meng Hao would call her to inform her that she would be joining the crew. However, she was still a little suspicious. Hence, she hurriedly called Hua Jin and told him about it. Hua Jin, on the other hand, was not surprised. He had also heard about it. It's probably because Qin talked to him today. Qin, Liang Yin was a little puzzled. Director Mong said that Qin Zhou was the one who looked for him. What happened? Chapter 3954. Liang Yin felt awkward. Why did you tell him about this? It's quite embarrassing. Why do you feel embarrassed? Hua Jin said, half-jokingly. The director has taken a liking to you. This means that you are pretty and have the looks of a celebrity. Shouldn't you feel happy when you think about it? Liang Yin did not know whether to laugh or cry. She was more curious about Qin Zhou. What did he say to Director Mong today? I don't know what he said to Meng Hao, but Qin Zhou seemed to be very angry. I guess he wanted to reason with Meng Hao. Meng Hao was afraid of causing trouble, so he arranged for you to join the production team. To the production team, this should be an exception. I feel that Qin Zhou cares a lot about you. Don't talk nonsense. What do you mean I'm talking nonsense? You don't know that he actually came to visit me today for the first time? Hua Jin said angrily. You don't know that he rarely comes to visit me even though I've been in the production team for so long. He actually came to visit me today. Could it be that he has found his conscience? To Qin Zhou, Hua Jin should belong to the free-range type. Firstly, Hua Jin was more obedient and did not cause trouble, so he was not worried. Secondly, he had already arranged for work matters. He only needed to send the draft to his assistant's email, and Hua Jin would follow the schedule. It was under such circumstances that Qin Zhou actually came to visit her. Who knew what he was thinking? Liang Yin, however, was still skeptical. Then, should I join the production team directly? Yes, you can join the production team directly. You don't have to worry about anything else. I heard that Qin Zhou even arranged an assistant for you. An assistant arranged by Meng Hao? Liang Yin was still worried. She felt that Meng Hao would not let her off so easily after being taken advantage of. Don't worry. Meng Hao won't dare to offend you. In the past, no one dared to offend Qin Zhou. Now that Qin Zhou is different from before, how dare Meng Hao? What a joke. What ability does he have? He's just a small assistant director. When Liang Yin heard this, she was a little dazed. At that time, she was filming on the set. When she went in and out of the film studio, she would often see women dressed to the nines. They would either hold the assistant director's hand or the producer's hand as they walked on the streets, smiling like flowers. Even such a small assistant director was enough to make them scramble like a flock of ducks. Now, based on Hua Jin's tone, the assistant director was actually a mere person. In this circle, the difference in level was not small. But since Hua Jin said that she could directly join the crew, Liang Yin had no choice but to comply. By the way, your pay has also been set. It's the highest among the supporting roles, 100,000 yuan per episode. 100,000? I'm guessing it's because of Qin Zhou. But the production crew only dared to name a price because Huan Yu is one of the investors. Either way, let's just assume Qin Zhou is paying you. Liang Yin was a little flattered. Hua Jin said enviously, That's great. You come from such a good family. You have to know that you haven't signed a contract yet. You don't have to share your pay with anyone. I've just debuted. I can't even get 100,000 yuan per episode, let alone 100,000 yuan per episode. I just want to show my face. Liang Yin felt even more uneasy. She felt that she owed Qin Zhou a lot. Why did he treat her so well? Could it be, was he interested in her? Liang Yin quickly waved her hand when she thought of this. Chapter 3955. Just as Liang Yin's imagination was running wild, an unknown number called. Since she didn't save a number, she didn't know who was calling. She picked it up suspiciously. Qin Zhou's voice came from the other end of the line. Are you free tonight? Qin. Liang Yin recognized Qin Zhou's voice. She was so nervous that she couldn't be any more nervous. She stood up, looking a little uneasy, as if her idol was really standing in front of her. Qin Zhou heard her stuttering and obviously nervous. He couldn't help but laugh. You seem a little nervous when I call? No, why are you calling me? Liang Yin held her forehead in annoyance as she asked this question. She sounded as if she didn't like him calling her. She definitely didn't mean it that way. She hoped that he wouldn't misunderstand her. Qin Zhou found her even more interesting after hearing this. She was so nervous. It seemed that what Hua Jin said about Liang Yin having a crush on him was true. Don't be nervous. I'm just asking if you're free tonight to have dinner together. Dinner. Liang Yin was so excited that she almost couldn't catch her breath. When she came back to her senses, she quickly nodded and said, "Of course I'm free. Were we eating?" However, after saying this, Liang Yin felt a little annoyed again. Why did her tone and words make it seem like she wasn't reserved at all? Would he think that she was a frivolous woman who couldn't wait to throw herself at him? Liang Yin suddenly felt that both her IQ and IQ had dropped by more than one level. They weren't even in love yet. How could she be so stupid? Could it be that the saying that a woman's IQ would drop when she was in love was true? Just as she was letting her imagination run wild, Qin Zhou's voice came clearly from the receiver. "Did you hear what I said?" Liang Yin was so lost in thought that she didn't hear what he said clearly. She immediately said, "There seemed to be a problem with the signal just now." What? What did you say?" "I asked you if it's convenient to pick you up now." "It's convenient." After Liang Yin gave him the address, she thought for a moment and said, Can you get there in half an hour?" "Well, if there's no traffic jam, we should be able to get there in half an hour." When Liang Yin heard this, she immediately felt a sense of urgency. After hanging up the phone, she immediately rushed into the bathroom to wash her face, wash her hands, and apply her foundation. She wasn't very good at makeup, but she knew how to do basic light makeup. However, she didn't know if it was because she was too nervous and flustered, but she seemed to have put on too much eyeshadow and too much lipstick. Just as she was about to start all over again, Qin Zhou called and said that he was already downstairs. Liang Yin didn't have time to remedy the situation. She put on her coat and hurried downstairs. When she arrived downstairs, she saw Qin Zhou's Bentley parked at the entrance of the neighborhood. He was sitting in the car, smoking a cigarette. When he saw her come downstairs, he immediately put out the cigarette, opened the door, and got out of the car. The moment he saw Liang Yin, his face froze. Qin Zhou's deep gaze landed on her face. At first glance, he was attracted by her thick eyeshadow. She seemed not very good at makeup. Her eyeshadow was too thick, so her eyelids looked bloated. Chapter 39:56. Qin Zhou asked, "Did you put on makeup?" When Liang Yin heard this, she became a little nervous. "What's wrong? Is it very thick?" Qin Zhou touched the tip of his nose and said, "Yeah, it's a little thick, like a little tabby cat." Liang Yin covered her face guiltily. She didn't have a mirror with her, so she didn't know what to do. "It's cold. Let's get in the car first." As Qin Zhou said this, he unlocked the car. Liang Yin lowered her head and got into the car in frustration. However, for some reason, perhaps because she was worried that she would sit too close to him, the failed makeup on her face was clearly visible. When Qin Zhou got into the car and saw that she was sitting in the back seat, he was a little surprised. "Why are you sitting in the back?" "Well," Liang Yin said guiltily, "do you want me to go up and remove my makeup? I don't really know how to put on makeup. It seems too ugly." "If you don't know how to put on makeup, why do you want to put on makeup?" Qin Zhou retorted. Hearing this, Liang Yin felt even more dejected. It looked like she really did put on makeup that was very ugly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said that. Oh no, she had wanted to put on some pretty makeup to leave a good impression on him. In the end, she hadn't expected that it would backfire. Just as she was feeling more dejected, Qin Zhou suddenly said, "I think you look good with makeup." When Liang Yin heard this, she was stunned. She was a little surprised and in disbelief. Really? Qin Zhou nodded seriously and patted the front passenger seat. He smiled and said, "Come and sit here." Oh. She obeyed and moved to the front passenger seat. Just as she sat down, she saw Qin Zhou's hand resting on the armrest. His fair and well-proportioned fingers looked like they were carved from jade. They were extremely beautiful. They were even prettier than a woman's hand. Liang Yin couldn't help but be entranced by them. Seeing that she kept staring at his hand, Qin Zhou also looked at his hand. He turned it over and asked, "Why do you keep staring at my hand?" Liang Yin came back to her senses and looked up. When she saw him staring straight at her, she quickly turned her head and looked straight ahead. She gulped nervously, feeling unbelievably nervous. She was so nervous that her heart was thundering. "Because your hands are beautiful." "Really?" Qin Zhou seemed to be used to it. "There's no one who doesn't think my hands are pretty." Liang Yin smiled and rubbed her hand shyly. It was obvious that she didn't know how to act freely in front of him. Qin opened the armrest box. Inside the armrest box were some makeup tools, cotton pads, and a makeup plate. He took them out and said to her, "Let me help you touch up your makeup." Ah, Liang Yin did not react in time and was very surprised. "Do you know how to put on makeup?" "I know a little. In the past, when I was taking care of Xingzhe, I was busy, so I would help him touch up his makeup. So, I'm used to having these things prepared." At the mention of Xingzhe, loneliness flashed across Qin Zhou's eyes. Liang Yin carefully took out the unpackaged food from the armrest and looked at the mirror. In the mirror, she finally saw her face that was not properly made up. It was purple. No wonder Qin Zhou had been staring at her for so long. It was really unsightly. Qin Zhou said, "Turn around." Chapter 39:57. Her heart was beating faster and faster. As he was touching up her makeup, Qin Zhou was very close to her. She could even feel the gentle breath coming from his lips. It was warm, but was boiling hot. Liang Yin was so nervous that she didn't dare to speak. Even her breathing was cautious. After Qin Zhou wiped away some of the puffy eyeshadow on her eyelids, he added some brown eyeshadow. It was very light, but it looked very natural. He then covered it with makeup powder. "It's done." It was done. Qin Zhou handed her the makeup mirror. Liang Yin picked it up and looked at herself. Oh my God, what a godly makeup touch-up. Originally, her makeup was very stiff. She didn't want to say that it was very erotic. She didn't expect it to become so delicate after his skillful hands. "You look good." Liang Yin felt a little ashamed. Even a man looked better than her in makeup. Her hands were so bad that they were hopeless. Qin Zhou smiled and said, "I think that with your talent, you don't need makeup unless it's a special occasion. You look very good without makeup." Liang Yin's face turned even redder. "What do you want to eat?" Qin Zhou said, "I remember that you like Western food. Yeah, I know a good restaurant. I'll take you there." When Liang Yin heard this, she was puzzled and asked, "Why do you want to treat me to a meal?" Qin Zhou started the car and turned the steering wheel as he said, "Actually, nothing happened between us that night." Huh? Liang Yin was stunned for a few seconds. However, she quickly realized what Qin Zhou was referring to. She immediately said, "You're talking about this. It's nothing. I didn't think too much about it. It's better for the person involved to explain it personally." Liang Yin was a little disappointed. She felt that Qin Zhou's words seemed to be trying his best to distance himself from her. Actually, he didn't have to explain himself. She wouldn't let her imagination run wild. His explanation made it seem like he was trying to draw a clear line between them. "I know. I won't pester you because of this." Liang Yin said this because she thought Qin Zhou was worried that she would pester him because of this. Qin Zhou knew what she was thinking, but he wasn't in a hurry to explain. Instead, he said calmly, "I didn't mean anything by what I said that morning. I was just testing you." Because when I first saw you when I woke up, I felt that you weren't Huajin." Qin Zhou continued, "But I wasn't sure, so I wanted to confirm it." "Sure enough, you've really switched back. This was also a good thing that was worth celebrating. So, let's treat this meal as a celebration, and also as an apology for what I did back then." Liang Yin blushed and nodded. She was extremely nervous. How could she not be nervous when her Prince Charming was sitting right beside her? The car sped along, until the car stopped at a Western restaurant with an extremely elegant environment. Liang Yin looked up and saw a series of English letters on the signboard, but it was not an English photo. French? Qin Zhou went to the front passenger seat and opened the door for her. Liang Yin got out of the car, pointed at the signboard and asked, "What kind of Western restaurant is this?" "This is French food. It's a 3-star Michelin restaurant." "What's a Michelin restaurant? Isn't it selling tires?" Qin Zhou was speechless. Chapter 39:58. Indeed, there was a tire brand called Michelin that could be found everywhere. Liang Yin often saw this signboard's tires and a special cartoon character. Qin Zhou pondered for a moment and said, "Actually, Michelin restaurants have another nickname." "Oh, what's the nickname?" "It's a restaurant that is troublesome to prepare and troublesome to eat." Liang Yin was dumbfounded when she heard this. So there was such a saying? Michelin dishes might take a lot of effort to prepare, but if you eat, the dish will be gone in a few seconds. Will you not be full? Coming to this restaurant is for this elegant atmosphere. But you shouldn't be hungry. Qin Zhou said, why are you in a daze? Let's go in. I've already made a reservation. Oh. Liang Yin was about to enter when she suddenly realized that Qin Zhou had stopped moving. His arm was slightly empty as he gestured to her. Just hold my arm. Liang Yin was a little uneasy, but she still mustered up her courage and held his arm nervously. Somehow, she felt that this action was something that only couples would do. Qin Zhou took her into the restaurant, and a waiter immediately led him to the reserved booth. Michelin restaurant had an elegant environment. When they walked in, the lights were dim, but it was enough to see the layout of the restaurant and the path under their feet. The two of them walked to the booth. The waiter first pulled out a chair and gestured for Liang Yin to sit down. It was Liang Yin's first time in this restaurant. She was not used to such thoughtful service and stood there in a daze. Qin Zhou said, sit down. Only then did Liang Yin dare to sit down. Just as she sat down, the waiter adjusted the seat for her and walked to Qin Zhou's side to pull out a chair for him to sit down. The service was too thoughtful. There was a kind of the sense of ceremony of European royalty. The service of this Michelin restaurant prioritized the ladies. In the same booth, the ladies would be prioritized before the men. The waiter looked French. This restaurant was originally opened by French people. Everything in the restaurant, even the details, had been restored to the original taste of Michelin. The waiter unfolded the napkin and carefully placed it on her lap. However, such a complicated etiquette made her feel even more uneasy. She was afraid that she would ruin the dining ceremony of the restaurant and become a joke to others. She felt that most of the people who went in and out of the restaurant were either rich or respectable, but it was her first time stepping into such an expensive restaurant. This was even more luxurious than the Western food Huajin had treated her to. After laying out the napkins, the waiter served 2 appetizers. There were 2 appetizers. One of them was pointed out by Qin Zhou, black truffle puff-skin soup, which was bogus classic. It was said that only VIP guests could enjoy this dish, and it was not available to outsiders. On the surface, the cup looked like it was made of crispy pastry. After poking open the golden skin, one could see the warm soup inside. Liang Yin was suddenly in a dilemma. The dishes were so exquisite that she didn't know how to eat them. Previously, when he went to the Western restaurant, he still knew how to cut the steak. So, should he just drink the crispy skin soup, or... Liang Yin looked at Qin Zhou, asking for advice. Chapter 39:59. She took a bite, and the fragrance lingered in her mouth. Liang Yin followed Qin Zhou's example. She soaked the pastry in the soup and took a bite. It was delicious. The appetizer was Hungarian cheese, which was also delicious. Just like that, she finished all the appetizers in no time. The waiter was standing at the side. When he saw Qin Zhou raise his hand, he immediately walked over and took away all the plates. However, when he saw Liang Yin eating the CD, he was surprised. Qin Zhou took a look and saw that Liang Yin was a little confused. He immediately explained, almost no one eats all the appetizers here. Because it's delicious. It's okay. It's nothing. It's just that most people are picky. Moreover, they're afraid that if they eat too much appetizers, they won't be able to eat the main course. Isn't this the main course? The main course hasn't been served yet. Usually, one dish is the only dish on the table. When the appetizers are taken away, the next dish will be served. I see. She had learned something new. Liang Yin smiled and said, it's delicious. If you didn't treat me, I wouldn't have known that there was such delicious Western food. This Michelin restaurant is considered authentic. The taste is quite good. Qin Zhou's taste was also more picky. The restaurant that he chose would definitely not be bad. Then, the main course was served one after another. The music in the restaurant was soothing and gradually calmed Liang Yin's nervous mood. Parmesan soufflé, Byron boiled eggs. When the burgundy snail was served, Liang Yin's face gradually showed a trace of embarrassment. This is snail, burgundy snail. It's delicious. Snail, can snails be eaten? Snails are cultivated artificially. Their meat is very tender. When Liang Yin saw the snail, The image of a snail with two antennae slowly wriggling on the ground on a rainy day appeared in her mind. It was sticky, and she could even see mucus. It felt difficult to eat. Liang Yin was a little hesitant. Qin Zhou knew that she didn't dare to eat it. Those who weren't used to French food might flinch at the sight of snails. Actually, close your eyes and don't care what ingredients it's made of. Just try it. Perhaps because of Qin Zhou's encouragement, Liang Yin did not want to disappoint him. So, she closed her eyes and took a bite. If he forced himself to forget that it was a snail, the fat and tender texture and the sweet and fragrant juice were indeed delicious. However, when he thought about the appearance of the snail, he still found it hard to swallow. However, Liang Yin obviously gave him face and swallowed it. However, the expression on his face when he swallowed the pill was clearly a little conflicted. Qin Zhou couldn't help but laugh. After all, to her, eating snails was no different from eating earthworms. Is it good? Not bad, but if you're not used to it, just put it aside. It's fine. It's a waste not to eat. Liang Yin closed her eyes again and took another bite. She had even eaten silkworm pupae before, so what was there to be afraid of snails? It was just a mouthful of protein. After temporarily ignoring the snail, Liang Yin no longer held any grudges. She ate the 3 snails and wiped the corners of her mouth with a napkin. Actually, if you ignore the fact that it's a snail, this dish is quite delicious. Qin Zhou pursed his lips and smiled. He raised his wine glass. Cheers! Liang Yin also raised her wine glass. Ding! The glasses clinked. Chapter 3960. Liang Yin was a little afraid of getting drunk. She didn't know how she would behave when she was drunk and whether she would make a fool of herself. So, she asked, "Will I get drunk?" That depends on your alcohol tolerance. However, no matter how bad your alcohol tolerance is, at least you won't get drunk after drinking this glass. Qin Zhou paused and said, half-jokingly, "But if you can't drink, don't force yourself. I don't accept scams." Liang Yin pursed her lips and smiled. She suddenly felt that it was very comfortable to get along with humorous men like Qin Zhou. It was no wonder that people said that when they were young, they liked to chase after young, fresh meat because they were handsome and had a youthful aura. However, most women still ended up with mature and steady men. Qin Zhou was a typical mature man. At this moment, the lights in the booth suddenly dimmed. Liang Yin was shocked. She thought that there was a power outage. But if there was a power outage, the lights wouldn't have dimmed so gradually. Qin Zhou saw Liang Yin's surprised expression and immediately said, "This is a special program for this restaurant." Special program? While Liang Yin was still curious, she saw the holographic projection lights above her head emit a glassy color that wasn't dazzling. Then, this charming and resplendent light gently fell on the white tablecloth. Such a big table now became a natural projection screen. The entire tablecloth was rendered into the Milky Way by the lights. It was too beautiful. It was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Liang Yin sucked in a breath of cold air. She didn't expect that the white tablecloth, which she thought looked ordinary when she sat down, would be so ordinary. She didn't expect that a holographic image would give her the feeling of being in a dazzling galaxy. "It's so beautiful." Qin Zhou smiled and looked at Liang Yin. Liang Yin looked at the resplendent lights in a daze. Along with the music, all kinds of beautiful effects were created. "Can I take a picture?" "Of course." After getting Qin Zhou's approval, Liang Yin quickly took out her phone, took a picture, and uploaded it to her WeChat moments. She often used WeChat, but she didn't have many friends on it. Hua Jin was also there. Not long after Liang Yin uploaded the post to her WeChat moments, Hua Jin saw it. He went to look for Qin Zhou furiously and sent him an angry emoji. "Qin Zhou, you guys had a secret meeting behind my back and even went to eat a Michelin 3-star restaurant. Why didn't you bring me along?" Qin Zhou took out his phone and saw that it was a message from Hua Jin. He glanced at it and threw it aside, ignoring it. Hua Jin went to harass Liang Yin again. "Okay, you guys want to have fun behind my back and left me alone in the hotel." Liang Yin replied with a snickering emoji. I won't bring you. Hua Jin exploded in anger and sent an aggrieved kitten emoji. In the blink of an eye, tears flowed like a river. Oomph. If there's good food next time, I won't bring you guys along. Liang smiled and replied with a tongue-out emoji. Then, she ignored Hua Jin. Qinzhou saw that she was holding her phone and guessed that it was a message from Hua Jin. He asked, Hua Jin went to harass you? Yeah. He said that we didn't bring him to Michelin and he was angry. Qinzhou snorted. Did I not bring him here to eat enough? He must be sick of it. Do you guys come here often to eat? Chapter 39:61. Liang lifted the wine glass and took a sip of champagne. Perhaps it was because of the small amount of alcohol, but her face turned red all of a sudden. On the way back, Qinzhou had been drinking, so he called the chauffeur to help Liang into the car. She was obviously a little drunk and a little groggy, but she wasn't exactly drunk. She only felt that Qinzhou's voice was a little ethereal and distant. The heater was turned on in the car, so it was very warm. Liang leaned against the seat and felt her head suddenly become heavy and groggy. Seeing that her head was swaying, Qinzhou simply reached out his arm and put it around her shoulders so that she could lean on his shoulder. For some reason, at that moment, Liang suddenly became clear-headed. Even though she had indeed drunk some wine earlier and felt a little tipsy, Qinzhou's action had undoubtedly startled her awake. Leaning on his shoulder, she was so stiff that her whole body was tense. Liang mustered up her courage and opened her eyes a little to sneak a peek above her head. Qinzhou looked out the window quietly. His chiseled side profile was extremely exquisite, like a work of art carved by the gods. With such good looks, he could definitely debut as an idol. At that moment, Liang clearly understood that she seemed to be in love. No one had ever treated her so well. Whether it was her father or her mother, she had been like a weed since she was young. She felt like she had been exiled. She wasn't a sentimental person, but occasionally she would feel envious and jealous when she saw other children coming home from school with their parents. When she came home alone, the house was empty. When she was young, she could only go to her grandparents' house to eat or cook instant noodles for herself. She didn't know how it felt to be doted on. It wasn't because Qinzhou was so good to her that she liked him. It was because he gave her an indescribable feeling. She would rather recognize this feeling as a sense of belonging. I don't know how many times you've been giggling since this morning. On the set, Liang was waiting for the opportunity to try on her makeup. When Hua Jin came back from filming, he saw her hugging his hot water bottle and giggling like no one else was around. He walked over grumpily and snatched the hot water bottle from her arms. He glanced at her and said, "How much longer are you going to giggle like that?" Liang snapped back to her senses. She glanced at him and quickly stopped giggling. "Have you passed?" "Yes." "Wait for the next one." Hua Jin sat down and looked at her expression suspiciously. Even though she wasn't wearing makeup or blush, her red cheeks looked like they had been dyed with rouge. He couldn't help but feel suspicious. "What did you guys do yesterday?" Liang said, "Nothing. I saw you giggling like a fool." Hua Jin smiled wickedly. "Did you make any progress yesterday? What are you thinking? What else did you do after dinner yesterday?" "We didn't do anything. After dinner, he sent me home and then left." Hua Jin furrowed his brows. He hated Qinzhou for being so disappointing. He had thought that Qinzhou had taken a liking to her and wanted to make a move on her. Chapter 39:62. At last night's dinner, Hua Jin had thought that Qinzhou wanted to serve meat directly. He didn't expect that Qinzhou had become a vegetarian. Boring. When Liang heard that, she could guess what Hua Jin was thinking. She snorted coldly. "Do you think Qinzhou is like you? He's a gentleman, not what you think." "He's a gentleman? Do you want me to talk to you about his past relationships?" Hua Jin deliberately baited her. As expected, Liang took the bait and became excited all of a sudden. "Past relationships? Tell me about it." If you want to know, I won't say." "Hey." Liang hated people who kept people in suspense and didn't satisfy their curiosity. Was there a need to ask? It was obvious that he was doing it on purpose. Since Hua Jin didn't say anything on purpose, Liang also resisted the urge to ask. Firstly, she didn't want Hua Jin to get what he wanted. Secondly, it didn't seem appropriate to ask about his past. However, Liang started to ask Hua Jin about other things. "Do you know what Qinzhou likes to eat?" For example, what kind of dishes he likes to eat. Also, what kind of fruits and flowers he likes. Hua Jin said casually, he's a capitalist. He likes money the most. Money can buy everything you say. Liang Yin was speechless. She was speechless. Hua Jin frowned slightly. Why? You want to make soup and cook for him? I heard that when he goes to work, he either orders takeout or eats from the cafeteria. The food in the cafeteria must be terrible, right? If I remember correctly, when Huan Yu was still in charge of CEO Mu, the chefs in the cafeteria at Huan Yu's headquarters were all 5-star chefs. This tradition hasn't been broken yet. In other words, he was saying that a 5-star chef would surely be able to cook better food than him. Liang Yin was rebuffed one after another. She pursed her lips, feeling wronged. Then, I'll knit a scarf for him. Knitting a scarf? Hua Jin narrowed his eyes and teased. Can't you be more mature and knit something difficult? I know how to knit scarves and scarves. Really, why would I lie to you? Hua Jin said confidently. Isn't a scarf just a matter of 2 needles tying a row of knots, then threading, hooking, and picking? Liang Yin was hit hard again. Her whole person was like a wilted eggplant. She hung her head and looked very depressed. But you can buy him a gift. I don't know what gift to give. I have a feeling that Qinzhou lacks nothing. Hua Jin winked at her. Do you know what Qinzhou likes? What? Men are just like women who like lipstick, bags, and jewelry. Men also have things that they like. What? Qinzhou has a hobby of collecting things. I remember his walk-in closet has a row of drawers filled with all kinds of beautiful cufflinks. In fact, most of them are out of print. Cufflinks. Liang Yin felt that it was not a problem. These cufflinks shouldn't be expensive, right? Those that are not expensive usually cost a few thousand yuan. Those that are expensive, such as those with diamonds or gems, cost a few 100,000 yuan. Those that are out of print cost a few million yuan. There are even some that are hard to estimate. Liang Yin was dumbfounded when she heard this. A few million yuan? She remembered that cufflinks were the kind that replaced the original cufflinks and were nailed to the cuffs. Why? Someone spent a few million yuan just to buy a pair of cufflinks. How extravagant. Chapter 3963. I remember when I accompanied Qinzhou to the Fashion Week last year. The brand manager of Cartier gave him a pair of cufflinks worth $1 million. There are also Bulgari and Hermes. Qinzhou prefers Bulgari and Versace. These 2 brands are the most common in the cufflinks at home. Liang Yin was already dizzy from listening to them. She felt that the $1 million she held tightly was not worth mentioning in front of these 2 brands. Evil capitalists. Wasn't the gap between the rich and the poor a little too big? After trying on her makeup, Liang Yin hailed a cab and went to the department store. Standing at the Bulgari counter, she was still dizzy. Should she buy it? If she did, what reason should she give to Qinzhou? Liang Yin thought hard and finally came up with a reason. Just say that I'm thanking him for treating me to a Michelin restaurant. Okay, it's decided then. She put her hand in her pocket and held the bank card tightly. Because she had been holding it, the cold bank card felt warm. Liang Yin walked into the Bulgari counter, trembling with fear. The reason why she was trembling with fear was that Bulgari's magnificent facade was a little dazzling. Even the staff at the counter were exquisitely dressed and good-looking. Let's walk around first. It was better to take a look at the price. Otherwise, if she asked, it would be hundreds of thousands or millions. What should she do if she couldn't afford it? That would be awkward. She felt that this kind of store was not a place for her. Liang Yin strolled around the counter as if there was no one else around. The staff in charge of the store sized her up and didn't pay much attention to her. No one came forward to serve Liang Yin. Those who worked in such a counter were all elites. Which one of them didn't have extremely sharp eyesight? Just by looking at her from head to toe, they could tell what brand she was wearing. Liang Yin was wearing clothes bought online. At most, they cost a few $100s. Which of the people who came in and out of these counters wasn't a rich lady wearing a mink coat or a successful man accompanied by a beautiful woman? She was probably a poor person who saw Bulgari and came to shop out of curiosity. Seriously, why would poor people come to visit Bulgari? However, after seeing that no one was there to serve her and that she had been walking around alone for a long time without any intention of leaving, the shop assistants gathered together and looked at her with disgust. Who was going to chase her away? I saw that she had been strolling around inside for so long, but she didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. Don't tell me he's a thief trying to steal from the counter? She doesn't look like it. She's a girl. Why else would she shop in the counter for so long? Looking at her poor appearance, how could she possibly be here to buy things? How can a commoner like him afford the things here? She doesn't look like a thief, does she? Who knows? Is the word thief written on the thief's face? The store manager became impatient and said, "There are only so many displays in the counter. Just go and see what's missing." A few of the shop assistants immediately nodded and pretended to be on patrol. They pretended as if nothing had happened and looked at the displays in the counter to see what was missing. Another shop assistant stepped forward and asked, "Hello, Mississippi. You've been shopping here for a long time. What can I do for you?" Chapter 3964. She had just walked around. Although some of the designs were indeed cheap, they still cost tens of thousands. Moreover, they were not considered good-looking. Even a layman like her felt that they were not good-looking, let alone Chinjo. Most of the good-looking designs cost 5 or 6 figures. Some of them did not have a price tag, so she did not dare to ask. She was afraid that she would not be able to afford them and would be looked down upon. Actually, Liang Yin was very sensitive. From a moment she walked into the counter, she could sense that the people at the counter were not very friendly towards her. For example, before entering this counter, she saw a woman dressed like a noblewoman being bowed and sent away by the shop assistant. Her smile was as flattering as it could be. When she turned around and saw her entering the counter, the heat on her face quickly cooled down, and her expression changed faster than flipping through a book. Liang Yin felt that she was being looked down upon, so she simply looked around herself and did not bother others. Now that the staff saw her, she took the initiative to ask. However, her tone was neither cold nor warm, and there was no intention of welcoming her. Instead, it sounded like she was driving her away. Liang Yin did not feel good when she heard this. However, on second thought, no matter how bad it was, she still had a lot of money on her. After all, Hua Jin had given her $1 million. This $1 million could not possibly not be enough to buy a pair of cufflinks here. Thinking of this, she became self-righteous again. "I want to buy a pair of cufflinks." Seeing that she had spoken, the staff was a little surprised. She had thought that since she had obviously come forward to drive her away, she would ask for a snub and quickly leave. She did not expect her to say that she wanted to buy cufflinks. "Who do you want to buy it for?" Liang Yin pondered for a moment and said, "I'm buying it for my boyfriend." "I see." The staff gave a fake smile and suddenly reminded her dryly, "Our things here are not cheap. A pair of cufflinks would cost at least 5 figures. Are you sure you want to buy it?" She asked so tactfully because she wanted to indirectly remind her that the things here were expensive and not cheap. She had to think carefully. What if she eagerly introduced them and the customer thought that they were expensive and did not want to buy it? Then wouldn't she be wasting her breath? It was not that they were too snobbish. Indeed, sometimes, in order to welcome a customer, the customer only came to the counter to take a look. It was nothing more than wanting to see the true face of the luxury goods. In fact, they did not really want to buy it. However, he still had to entertain the customers who entered the store. Often, this kind of customer would pretend to walk around, and when the shop assistant introduced them one by one, it was obvious that they couldn't afford it. They would even pompously say, "It's not to my liking," and leave. As for the really good customers, they were snatched away by other colleagues. On the surface, these counter clerks got along well with each other, but in fact, all of them were very clear-headed and astute. Why would they go against their own performance? Therefore, for such customers, the staff would push all the blame to their new colleagues. When Liang Yin heard what she said, she was a little displeased. "If you can't afford it, why are you here?" On the surface, the shop assistant was smiling, but in her heart, she was cursing. She had heard such words countless times. Often, there would be some old ladies dressed in gaudy clothes, pretending to be rich ladies who would come to the counter to shop, but in the end, they would not buy anything. "Okay, then take a look and see if there are any designs that you like." Liang Yin looked again and felt that there were no designs that looked particularly good in the counter. "Are all the designs here?" Chapter 3965. Of course not. These are the more affordable designs in our store. The really expensive ones have been kept away because many customers touch them with their hands. If the sweat on their hands gets on those gems and diamonds, it will affect their luster. Oh, Liang Yin's eyes darkened when she heard this. The designs on the outside looked so mediocre, but the prices were already in the tens of thousands. Wouldn't the expensive ones cost hundreds of thousands? Liang Yin was a little conflicted. She felt that her wallet was about to be emptied after such a long time. She didn't feel good about it. Forget it. Let's take a look first. It's free to look. These designs don't look good. Show me some nicer ones. The shop assistant muttered, but she couldn't refuse. She said, "Wait for me here." With that, the shop assistant went back to the safe. Just then, another shop assistant walked over, looking a little nervous. "Did you see the sapphire ring on display in cabinet A? What's wrong?" The shop assistant also became alert. "Don't tell me. That woman is really a thief? The sapphire ring is gone." The two of them walked to cabinet A, and indeed, the sapphire ring on display was gone. The two of them were dumbfounded. "It can't be. I was watching her just now. She passed by cabinet A, but I didn't see her touch it. What do you know? Some thieves are so good at stealing that they can steal things without anyone noticing. Don't let her go. Ask her clearly, and I'll ask the store manager. I'm afraid she's been released." "Okay." The shop assistant turned back and walked to Liang Yin. Seeing that she had returned empty-handed, Liang Yin was a little puzzled. Didn't you go to get your cufflinks? The safe isn't open. Look at the others." When Liang Yin heard this, she thought that the shop assistant thought that she couldn't afford it and was patronizing her. She was angry and said angrily, "Forget it. I'm not buying anymore." She would go to the other counters to take a look. Didn't Shinjo like Versace's brand too? When she passed by, she saw the Versace brand. On the way here, she went online to find out more about the brand's logo. Seeing that Liang Yin was about to leave, the shop assistant stopped her. "You cannot leave." The shop assistant was so excited that she grabbed Liang Yin's wrist. Liang Yin struggled for a moment, and her face turned ugly. "What are you doing? Why aren't you letting him go? Didn't you say you wanted to buy cufflinks for your boyfriend?" "That's right, but you don't show me the good stuff. The designs outside don't look good. Don't go yet." That was all the shop assistant said. She looked around and looked at her colleagues. "What do you mean?" After a while, the store manager and his colleagues hurried over, looking flustered. "The sapphire ring is gone." "He's really gone?" When the shop assistant heard this, she was furious and pushed Liang Yin fiercely. "Take out the ring." Liang Yin was confused. After being pushed, she staggered back a few steps and almost fell. She was furious. "What are you doing? A sapphire ring is missing from our counter. Did you steal it?" The shop assistant asked angrily. "Huh?" Liang Yin laughed. So she was being treated as a thief. Chapter 3966. However, the shop assistant said righteously, "From the beginning until now, there was no one else in the counter other than you. If you didn't steal it, who else could it be?" Liang Yin was furious. In her mind, thieves were like rats crossing the street. Anyone would be angry if they were treated as a thief for no reason. She was so angry that she was trembling all over, but she tried her best to maintain her composure. She asked calmly, "Then do you have evidence? If you don't, you're framing me." "We'll know once we search you," the shop assistant said. "Search me." When Liang Yin heard this, she was so angry that she laughed. "Do you know the law? Why do you have to search me? You're not the police. Why do you have to search me?" When she said this, the shop assistant thought that she was guilty. "Are you feeling guilty? Are you scared out of your wits when you heard that we're going to search you? What's there to be scared of? I didn't steal it, but you don't have the right to search me. Also, don't tell me you have surveillance cameras. You can just check the surveillance footage. The surveillance footage belongs to the mall. Without the police's permission, we don't have the right to check it." After a pause, the shop assistant said, "I advise you to take out the things you stole quickly. Otherwise, we'll call the police. When the police come and prove that you've stolen, you'll have a criminal record. Do you understand?" Liang Yin was so angry that she was trembling all over. A sense of humiliation welled up in her. She said firmly, Anyway, I didn't take it, so you don't have the right to detain me. You can call the police. With that, she was about to leave. Seeing that she was about to leave, the shop assistant was even more certain that she had a guilty conscience. She wanted to leave quickly and move the stolen goods elsewhere, so she immediately stopped her. "Someone, there's a thief," one of the shop assistants shouted. The shop assistants at the other counters happened to be idle. When they heard this, they immediately gathered around. Soon, the Bulgari counter was filled with people. Some of them were passers-by. Some of them were the shop assistants at the other counters. When they heard that someone had stolen something, they immediately rushed over to watch the commotion. In an instant, Liang Yin looked around. Many people were glaring at her and pointing at her. Their faces were full of disgust, which made her self-esteem suffer a huge blow. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was a very strong-willed person and never shed tears easily. However, she felt extremely humiliated to be treated as a thief and in front of so many people. However, even though she felt angry and humiliated, she still straightened her back and wiped away her tears. She said coldly, "Please call the police now. I didn't do anything wrong, so I'm not afraid of ghosts knocking on my door. It's the same, even if the police come." "Fine. You're so stubborn. Since you said you want to call the police and aren't afraid of embarrassing yourself, then what are we afraid of? Anyway, if something is missing, they will definitely report it to the police. Just wait for your record." The shop assistant made a phone call the police. The shop assistants looked at each other with impatience written all over their faces. If he stole it, so be it. Can't he just take it out? He had already been caught. What else did he want? Chapter 39:67. The store manager looked like she was very easy to talk to. The other store assistants also stepped forward to speak. "Previously, there was a thief who came to our store to steal jewelry. We caught him red-handed and called the police. Because the amount involved was huge, he was sentenced to 7 years. Bulgari's items are not cheap." The store manager hurriedly said, "This sapphire ring is worth more than 900,000. The amount involved is huge, so you have to think carefully." Liang Yin was fearless. "I didn't take it. You can call the police. If it's verified that you're slandering us, I'll go through legal proceedings and sue you for violating my rights." The store assistant who received her heard this and spoke without thinking. "Huh? Who are you trying to scare? We're framing you. Don't bluff too much." A store assistant from the Chanel store next door walked over and tugged at her sleeve. "She doesn't look guilty at all. Could it be that you're framing her?" "Not guilty. That's all an act. Didn't you see just now? If we hadn't stopped her, she would have left. If she's not guilty, then what is she? Also, you didn't see how she trembled when she heard that we were going to do a body search. If she's not guilty, then what is she?" After a while, the police arrived. Usually, there would be police stationed next to the shopping mall. 5 minutes after the police call, the police would rush over. Seeing that the police had arrived, the store assistant immediately went up to them and gave them a brief account of the situation. "She stole a sapphire ring from our store." Liang Yin was furious. "I didn't." 2 police officers came. One was in charge of recording, and the other was in charge of questioning. The police officers walked over and pointed the camera at her. The other one questioned. "They said you stole something? Are you going to say that you're going to search me?" The police officer smiled and was considered to be more amiable. "We won't. We don't have a search warrant, so we don't have the right to do a body search." Liang Yin pursed her lips when she heard this. "Thank you." The store assistants couldn't sit still when they heard this. "Officer, she's the only one in the store since just now. There's no one else. She must have stolen it. Before she came, I still saw the sapphire ring. When I looked at it just now, it's gone. Don't the police have the right to check the surveillance footage?" Liang Yin paused and asked, "There must be surveillance cameras in this counter, right? Why don't we just take a look at it?" The shop assistant was a little anxious. "You just don't want to let us search you because you're guilty." Liang Yin said loudly, "Get your facts straight. It's not that I'm guilty. It's just that you don't have the right to do so." "All right, stop arguing." Seeing that they were arguing, the police officer snorted and said to the shop assistant, "Have you checked properly? Could have been put away or something. Most people wouldn't dare to touch such an expensive item. We've checked, but there's nothing. All right, let's go to the surveillance room and retrieve the footage. The shop assistants and the store manager had no objections. Hence, the police officers brought the store manager and Liang Yin to the mall surveillance room. When they entered the surveillance room, they showed their police badges, and the police officers instructed the security guards to retrieve the surveillance footage of the Bulgari counter. They adjusted the footage to the moment after Liang Yin entered the counter and watched the footage frame by frame. Chapter 3968. Because she was standing sideways, all that could be seen was her raising her hand. Then, she glanced at the price tag and quickly put it down, returning the ring to its original position. However, because of the angle, it was not clear whether she had put it back or not. Seeing this, the store manager started to make a big fuss about it. So, you did touch this ring. Liang Yin was naturally honest. I saw it because I thought it was pretty, but when I saw the price tag, I thought it was too expensive. I was afraid that I would damage it, so I put it back. The store manager was obviously convinced that she had stolen something. From this angle, who knows if you really put it back or not? We only saw you pick it up, but we didn't see you put it back. Look, the store manager pointed at the screen and said, "You're obviously bluffing. Actually, you didn't put it back, did you? Actually, the item is still on you." Liang Yin was furious. How would I know where the surveillance cameras are? Maybe you've overstepped the mark? Don't be unreasonable. Aren't you obviously trying to search me? Liang Yin was obviously exasperated as well. Let me tell you, if you want to search me, I won't give it to you. The store manager was furious when he heard this. He pointed at her and complained to the police officer. "Officer, take a look. Take a good look. What's with her attitude? She's not cooperating with the investigation at all." Liang Yin retorted, "Am I a criminal? Why should I cooperate with your investigation?" The police officer chided, "Both of you, stop arguing. Calm down. This matter couldn't be concluded based on just a few actions. Aren't you pushing it a little too far if you want to convict her like this?" As he spoke, the police officer turned around and advised Liang Yin, "Miss, I'm sure you've seen the video. Indeed, from this angle, we couldn't have seen you put the item back in its original position. Of course, we don't have the right to search you, but if you're willing to cooperate with us, you can prove that you're innocent. What's wrong with that? Let us check your belongings. If you really don't have anything, you just have to cooperate with us to make a statement, and you can go home. Nothing will happen." Liang Yin insisted, "I'm only following the rules. Unless you have a search warrant, I promise to cooperate with you. If not, no one has the right. This is also my right. You have no right to violate it." The store manager panicked. "Stop putting on an act. Don't you know whether you took it or not? Quickly take it out." Although this sapphire ring wasn't the most expensive one in the store, it was still worth a few 100,000 yuan. If it disappeared for no reason, the store manager would also be held responsible, and he would lose his golden rice bowl. Of course she was anxious. She might even have to pay for it. How could she afford something that cost hundreds of thousands? As a result, his emotions began to rise. Liang Yin's attitude was still firm. "Give up. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would humiliate myself? I'm clearly innocent, so why should I be searched? Only criminals are searched, right?" The store manager also clamored. "If you're innocent, then why do you look so guilty? Just take out your belongings for us to see. If you really don't have anything, who would be willing to waste time on you?" Chapter 3969. Liang Yin was furious. She pursed her lips. She wanted to cry, but she held it in and swallowed her grievances. If she were to show weakness in front of such a person, that would be the greatest insult to her. The two of them continued to waste time. The police were in charge of looking at the surveillance footage. After looking at it, other than the one suspicious point, they couldn't find any problems. They were at their wits' end. Could it have fallen into a corner? The policeman proposed such an idea. The store manager immediately said, "That's impossible. There can't be a blind spot." Liang Yin retorted, "Who knows if you stole it?" The store manager retorted angrily, "Watch your mouth." Liang Yin ignored her and sat down on the chair with her back, facing the store manager. She didn't say a word. No matter how the store manager tried to provoke and humiliate her, she tried her best to look indifferent. Soon, the regional manager rushed over. When he heard that a ring was missing, He appeared anxious and reprimanded the store manager. Why is a ring missing all of a sudden? What's going on? The store manager pursed her lips and gestured at Liang Yin, who was sitting at the table. She said sarcastically, I suspect that she stole it. The regional manager glanced at Liang Yin and threw a question at the store manager. Do you have any evidence? No, that's bullsh asterisk T. The regional manager said harshly. If this ring is gone, you can pack your bags and get lost. I can't protect you anymore. The store manager bit her lip and watched the regional manager leave. When she looked at Liang Yin again, her eyes were filled with resentment. It's all your fault. Without any warning, she suddenly pounced on Liang Yin and gave her 2 tight slaps on the face without any explanation. You must have stolen it. Liang Yin wasn't one to be taken advantage of. Not to be outdone, she retaliated with a slap. Don't be unreasonable. The store manager was obviously worried that she would lose her job. She grabbed her clothes and wanted to force her to hand over the ring. You're not willing to let us search it because you have a guilty conscience. You're not willing, right? This is not up to you. As he spoke, he reached out to touch her pocket. The two of them started to wrestle. However, the store manager was obviously anxious. After a while, Liang Yin was at a disadvantage and was pushed to the ground. Her hair was messy, and she was in a sorry state. Covering her burning face, she still stubbornly refused to shed a single tear. The police hurriedly came up to stop them and finally separated the two of them. The store manager shouted, Officers, she's the thief. Take her back to the police station for investigation. Search her body. I guarantee you'll find something. Liang Yin's eyes were red as she glared at her fiercely. Once again, she explained hoarsely, I didn't. After saying that, he was so angry that his whole body trembled. At this moment, his phone suddenly rang. Liang Yin realized that the voice came from her bag. She took out her phone and saw the name Qin Zhou. At that moment, for some reason, tears fell helplessly from her eyes. Cry. You're still crying. Well, why do you have to cry? Liang Yin ignored her. She didn't want to pick up Qin Zhou's call. After all, she was in such a sorry state, and she didn't want him to see her in such a sorry state. However, Qin Zhou called again. Liang Yin guessed that something must have happened, so she picked up the call. Chapter 3970. Liang Yin held her breath, but didn't say anything. However, Qin Zhou sensed that something was amiss from her heavy breathing. What's wrong? Are you crying? Liang Yin knew that she couldn't hide it any longer. She covered her mouth and choked out, I'm fine. Qin Zhou was sure that she was crying. He knew that she had been wronged. His tone wasn't anxious as he asked gently, What happened? Tell me. Liang Yin didn't want to talk about it. However, Qin Zhou was very capable. His tone was gentle and extremely patient. Soon, Liang Yin's psychological defenses were completely broken. I didn't steal anything, she choked out. I really didn't. Why don't you believe me? Qin Zhou finally felt a little nervous. Where are you? I'll come over right away. Seeing that she was stammering, the store manager didn't think twice before snatching her cell phone and speaking into the microphone. Hello, I'm the store manager of the Bulgari counter. May I know how you are related to her? Liang Yin panicked and reached out to snatch her cell phone back. However, the next second, she heard the store manager's suspicious tone. Are you your boyfriend? Boom! It was as if something had exploded in her head. She widened her eyes in shock. Qin Zhou, what did he say over the phone? He claimed to be her boyfriend. She found it hard to believe. In any case, come over here. Your girlfriend is suspected of stealing jewelry and is being detained by the police. The store manager told him the address. 20 minutes later, Qin Zhou arrived very quickly. He had been driving past the department store and had wanted to ask Hua Jin and Liang Yin out for dinner to discuss the contract signing. He had made a call, but when he heard that something had happened, he immediately turned around and rushed over. Qin Zhou pushed open the office door and saw the layout of the room. The police stood beside the surveillance camera while the store owner crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking very arrogant. Meanwhile, Liang Yin was slumped on a chair. Her messy hair covered half of her face, and her expression couldn't be seen clearly. However, she was curled up and looked very lonely, like a frightened rabbit. When the store manager saw Qin Zhou, he was shocked. Chinjo was wearing a suit. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell at a glance that he was an elite. He was handsome, tall, and had an inviolable aura. For some reason, his appearance made the store manager feel a little guilty. Was this her boyfriend? He seemed to be a wealthy and respectable person. With such a boyfriend, the suspicion of stealing was not high. However, there were also rich people who stole things. Perhaps this woman had some special fetishes. Thinking of this, she forced herself to calm down. Chinjo didn't even look at the others. He walked straight to Liang Yin and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Liang Yin's shoulders trembled slightly. She finally raised her head and looked at Chinjo. Tears welled up in her eyes, but they refused to fall. She didn't dare to look at him, afraid that he would see her in such a sorry state. Chinjo raised his head and finally glanced at the others. He snorted coldly and said, "Can anyone explain this to me?" Just as the police were about to say something, the store manager beat them to it and explained the ins and outs of the matter clearly. When Chinjo heard this, he sneered, obviously disdainful. Chapter 39:71. The store manager was speechless. "Very well," Chinjo said politely. "Get your manager here." "Our manager?" The store manager said. "Chase our regional manager away." "I didn't mean the regional manager." Chinjo said again. "Get your general manager here." The store manager said tactfully, "We don't have the authority." Chinjo smirked. "Oh, is that so?" He sent a text message. After about 10 minutes, the general manager of the mall rushed over. I was wondering who it was." "So it's CEO Chin. What can I do for you, Boss Chin, for?" The store manager and the police officer were completely dumbfounded, especially the store manager. His mouth was so big that it could fit an entire egg. In the past, the big shots who were high and mighty in front of them had to bow and scrape in front of this man. Who exactly was this man? Chinjo was a man of few words. He only said, "My girlfriend was arrested as a thief when she was shopping in your mall. Now, your store manager wants to do a body search. What do you think?" When the manager heard this, his face turned a little pale. He turned around and questioned the store manager. "What's going on?" The store manager said submissively, "I suspect that she stole something and hid it on her body. I want to check her. She stole something?" The manager was dumbfounded. "Who is she?" "She works for CEO Chin. Why would she need to steal?" "You must be kidding me." But after she touched the sapphire ring, it disappeared without a trace. "It's normal for me to be suspicious." The store manager tried his best to explain himself. When Chinjo heard this, he found it interesting. "What normal person?" He continued casually, "It's not that I can't do a body search. My girlfriend is suspected, and I have to prove my innocence. If the results show that I'm guilty, I'll bear all the consequences and responsibilities. But if I'm not, I'll have to trouble your mall to give a reasonable explanation and compensation. Also you." Chinjo's gaze suddenly fell on the store manager. "Get out of here." His tone was calm, but there was an air of authority about it. When the store manager heard this, he was nervous and unhappy. No matter how big a figure he was not the management of this mall. Why did he have to say that he should get lost just because he was told to? However, the mall manager knew that he couldn't afford to offend a ruthless person like Chinjo. Thus, he quickly smiled and said, "Why do you need to search me? You're making a mountain out of a molehill. We're not the ones making a big deal out of nothing." Chinjo naturally categorized Liang Yin as the same as him. When Liang Yin heard this, she did not say anything. However, with Chinjo around, she felt an inexplicable sense of security. Even though she had Chinjo's support, she still explained, "I came to the counter because I wanted to buy some jewelry, but the staff at the counter obviously didn't want to serve me. Just as I was about to leave, I was stopped. They said that they suspected me of stealing, but I said I didn't steal, so I really didn't steal. If I had stolen, I wouldn't have been able to get away with it. If it's not mine, I shouldn't take it. Even a child knows this." After a pause, she continued, "Similarly, respecting a person's character and dignity is a basic principle. Doesn't your mall have this basic principle?" This was a serious matter, but it was a human rights issue. Chapter 39:72. This was a serious matter, but it was a human rights issue. The manager did not dare to be negligent. Although Qin Zhou had said that he was willing to be searched, the problem was, did he dare to? Qin Zhou's gaze was cold. If one were to use an idiom to describe the expression on his face, it was frighteningly gloomy. It was a kind of coldness that Liang Yin had never seen before. When Qin Zhou said that she was willing to cooperate with the search, she didn't feel sad at all. She knew that Qin Zhou wouldn't let her suffer any losses. At that time, if he was really searched, not only would the store manager be fired, he would also lose his official position. Even if this woman really stole hundreds of thousands of yuan worth of jewelry, he would not dare to search her. If he really found something, he would offend Qin Zhou even more. Hence, the manager naturally wanted to turn the tide. CEO Qin, this is our fault. We are very sorry that this lady had a bad shopping experience. We will definitely improve our service standards in the future. At the same time, we absolutely believe that this lady is absolutely innocent. We will definitely not do a body search. Please rest assured. The store manager was hesitant. But, manager, shut up. The manager turned to her and scolded. You work at the Bulgari counter, right? As the store manager, don't you know the purpose of a counter? That is to respect the customers. How on earth did a person like you become a store manager? From today onwards, you're no longer the store manager of Bulgari. Pack your bags and get lost. The store shut up. The manager was afraid that she would speak too much and offend Qin Zhou. If she said another word, he would strangle her to death. The store manager had some foresight. When she saw the manager's fierce gaze, she immediately understood that even if this woman really stole the jewelry, there was nothing she could do. At this moment, the store manager heard her cell phone ring. She was puzzled. She picked up her cell phone and saw that it was a call from one of the employees. She walked to the side and answered the call quietly. As soon as the call connected, she heard the excited chatter of the employees. Store manager, we found the ring. The store manager did not react in time. What was going on? Didn't they say that the ring was missing? How did they find it again? What was going on? Her mind was blank, as if it had been bombed by an atomic bomb. Oh, it's Lin Lin. The ring fell into the gap of the ring holder. She looked for it for a long time, but could not pry it open. It's here, it's here. This was great news. The store manager's face turned pale. The ring. She found it. Could it be that they had really wrongly accused someone? This was not good. The manager also heard something and quickly winked at the store manager, telling her not to say anything. The store manager understood what was going on, so he didn't say anything. However, Qin Zhou's ears were sharp, and he caught the slightest hint of rustling grass in the wind. Oh, you found the ring? Found, didn't find. The store manager tried to evade him. Qin Zhou asked her further. You find it or not find it, not find it. Make it clear. Chapter 3973. CEO Qin, let's end this matter here. Regardless of whether the ring was found or not, we'll take responsibility for this loss. The manager hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. You must be tired after rushing all the way here. Come, let me treat you to a cup of tea in the office. There's no need for that. Qin Zhou pushed him aside and shot a cold glare at the store manager. Did you think that you could fool me with such a petty trick like diverting my attention? He said slowly. I heard over the phone that the ring was found. How are you going to explain this matter? The manager's face turned red and his body stiffened. The store manager didn't know what to do and stood there in a daze. Liang Yin heard it too. She turned her face away angrily and clenched her fists. However, when she heard that the ring was finally found, she felt relieved. The police officer was also asking for a snub. He stood at the side and smoked. They didn't have much to say in this situation. The manager hardened his heart and said firmly, I will definitely give you a perfect explanation for this matter. CEO Qin. Oh, then I'll wait and see. In the end, the matter ended with a public apology and financial compensation. Naturally, the store manager couldn't keep his position. Even the manager had to bear the consequences of reporting the matter. Liang Yin didn't know how the matter was resolved. She sat in the reception room the whole time and was served good tea and snacks. The people in the public relations department were trembling in fear, afraid that they would miss out on anything. When Qin Zhou came to pick her up and the two of them walked out of the mall, Liang Yin rubbed her red and swollen eyelids and smiled at him. Thank you. Qin Zhou. Qin Zhou turned around calmly. When he heard her, he asked casually, Thank me for what? If you hadn't arrived, I wouldn't know how to resolve this matter. You should have told me first. Qin Zhou continued. If I had stepped in, this matter would have been easy to resolve. I'm just angry. Anger appeared on Liang Yin's face. Why do they have to search me? I just feel that it's unfair that they thought I was a thief based on a one-sided view. Actually, a body search isn't a big deal to me. I just didn't want them to get away with it. Qin Zhou smiled. You're extraordinarily stubborn. Liang Yin pursed her lips. She knew that she was a little stubborn. Why did you want to shop at Bulgari? Qin Zhou pretended to ask casually. When Liang Yin heard this, she looked away guiltily and stammered. I'm just bored, so I came to shop. As she said this, she sighed at her heart. In the end, she didn't find the cufflinks for him. I see. Qin Zhou chuckled. It's true that people will be prejudiced against you if you wear this to Bulgari. After all, the shop assistants at these counters have sharp eyes. They can tell at a glance how much you're wearing and where you bought it. There's also the nouveau riche who's who's. The nouveau riche won't come to Bulgari. Why? Some of them don't even know what Bulgari is. They only know Chanel, Dior, and L'Oreal. Moreover, the more a nouveau riche is, the more he has to wear gold and silver and dress well. When Liang Yin heard this, she raised her eyebrows. All right, well, I'm too poor to be looked down upon. Qin Zhou silently glanced at her and slowly smiled. Chapter 39-74. Tonight? Was he asking her out? Liang Yin asked curiously. What's the matter? It's about signing a contract. I want to talk to you about it. Signing a contract? Liang Yin was really flattered. Is it signing a contract with you? Yes, with Huan Yu, Qin Zhou replied. Ah, Liang Yin pondered for a moment. Then will you be my manager? Qin Zhou heard this and asked with interest. You want me to be your manager? Liang Yin nodded her head vigorously. I think you're very capable and you know how to take care of people. If you're my manager, you'll definitely learn a lot. The most important thing was that she would have more opportunities to interact with him. As the saying goes, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Liang Yin actually wanted to put on an act. It would be even better if she could spend more time with Qin Zhou. Actually, this was the best time to confess her feelings. But what if she got rejected? Then it would be very awkward. What if Qin Zhou didn't like her at all? What if she confessed to him and he avoided her instead? In any case, she should try to get him to be her manager first. Then, she could naturally cultivate their relationship. Anyway, there was still a long way to go. There would be more opportunities in the future. Liang Yin muttered in her heart. Seeing that she was in a daze, Qin Zhou didn't say anything. We'll talk about the details later. Also, there's something I want to tell you. If I become your manager, I'll get a very high commission. How high? Liang Yin asked curiously. For the first contract period, it'll be split in 37. 37? Liang Yin did some calculations. It wasn't too high. If she could get 70%, it would be a considerable amount. Seeing that she didn't seem to take it seriously, Qin Zhou reminded her again. You get 30%, I get 70%. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows. Why? You can't accept it? No, I'm okay with it. Liang Yin looked nervous, as if she was afraid that Qin Zhou would go back on his word. Qin Zhou blinked his eyes and curled his lips into a smile. It seemed that this girl was really interested in him. He couldn't hide his thoughts at all. However, Qin Zhou did not realize that this smile of his was so charming that Liang Yin was bewitched to the point that she was dizzy. Heavens, heavens, how could there be such a handsome man in this world? It turned out that there really was such a person in this world. When he smiled, it was as if there were stars hidden in his eyes. Liang Yin peeked at him, trying to suppress the love in her heart. There are trees on the mountain and branches on the tree. The heart pleases the Lord, but the Lord does not know. Qin Zhou feigned ignorance. However, how could this shrewd man not see that the girl in front of him had feelings for him? Hey, why are you two together? When Hua Jin saw Qin Zhou and Liang Yin appear together, he was so shocked that his eyes widened. Then, as if he had discovered some adultery, his eyes narrowed. You? Don't tell me. Liang Ying glared at him. Don't spout nonsense. Hua Jin immediately said aggrievedly. I haven't said anything yet. Why are you feeling so guilty? Liang Yin felt even more guilty after being teased by him. Wasn't she making it obvious that she was trying to hide something? Something happened, Qin Zhou explained. Naturally, Hua Jin had to be concerned. Qin Zhou didn't hide the truth from him and told him the whole story. When Hua Jin heard that Liang Yin had been mistaken for a thief, not only did he not sympathize with her, he even laughed heartlessly. Chapter 3975. You went to the Bulgari counter dressed like that. It would be strange if they didn't think you were a thief. Liang Yin knew that Hua Jin meant no harm, but she still retorted, Can you not judge a book by its cover? Can you judge a person based on what they wear? Actually, with your looks, you really don't need to go to Bulgari. Liang Yin was speechless when Hua Jin said that. How is it? Did you get anything today? Hua Jin asked curiously. Did you buy a gift? Liang Yin was stunned. Qin Zhou was interested. What gift? It's... Before Hua Jin could say anything, Liang Yin anxiously rushed over and covered his mouth. Don't say it. Her sudden action shocked Hua Jin. He rolled his eyes at Liang Yin and said helplessly, Let go. Liang Yin shushed him. It's a secret, okay? Don't say it. Okay, you can let go now. Qin Zhou sized up the two of them with a meaningful look in his eyes. Don't tell me you have feelings for Liang Yin. On the way back, Hua Jin sat in the front passenger seat and asked curiously, You seem to treat her differently. Don't tell me you have feelings for her. Qin Zhou smiled but did not say anything. You haven't managed an artist for so many years. Now that you say you want to manage Liang Yin, are you planning to support her? Qin Zhou said honestly, Whether I want to support her or not depends on her potential. If she doesn't have potential, there's no point in supporting her. Liang Yin said she wants to enter the entertainment industry. It sounds like she wants to be a celebrity. Actually, you're so smart, can't you tell? Qin Zhou did not comment, nor did he try to hide it from Hua Jin. I know. Hua Jin continued. You can tell that she likes you too. Indeed, when you like someone, you can't hide your feelings no matter what. Qin Zhou asked him back, What do you mean by like? I don't understand. What does she like about me? Qin Zhou seemed to be asking her, but at the same time, he seemed to be talking to himself. He really couldn't understand what Liang Yin liked about him. In the past, those women liked him, adored him, and chased after him because he had something they needed. Fame, profit, resources, and exposure. What they could offer was their own bodies. What Qin Zhou could give them was also what they needed. However, what about Liang Yin? What did she like about him, and what did she want from him? Qin Zhou was a very rational person. He was so rational that he would try his best to analyze the situation. However, he couldn't figure out what level Liang Yin's love for him was on. You're handsome. Hua Jin was the first to say, Nowadays, girls are picky about looks at first sight. You have the face of a celebrity who can debut. You must have left a good impression. Just based on looks? Qin Zhou couldn't help but smile. Just because of this reason, she can easily talk about love. She's really a young girl who hasn't grown up yet. Hua Jin rolled his eyes helplessly. To her, you're an old bull, and she's a young grass. She's still young. Moreover, Chapter 3976. Using rational thinking to explore something as irrational as love. Is there a problem in itself? Qin Zhou frowned but didn't say anything. Moreover, Qin Zhou, have you ever loved someone? Do you know what love is? Love isn't just because you have a woman and you've been together. That's love. Actually, I don't think you understand what it means to like someone at all. Hua Jin's words had a huge impact on Qin Zhou's emotions. He didn't count as love. Those women in the past didn't count as love. Qin Zhou came back to his senses and glanced coldly at Hua Jin through the rearview mirror. His tone was obviously unhappy. You seem to be unusually talkative today. Hua Jin also realized that Qin Zhou was impatient, so he laughed and said, I drank too much, don't mind me. Qin Zhou snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. It was dead silent in the car. For Qin Zhou, feeling should be a reason for an equivalent exchange. You give me a sense of security, and I give you warmth. To him, It was just a ritual exchange. The reason why people liked someone was purely because they were lonely. Therefore, they wanted to comfort themselves and fall in love regardless of their own safety. At the end of the day, humans were still selfish creatures. In order to give their feelings something to rely on, they wanted to find someone they liked at all costs to satisfy themselves. Therefore, Qin had always disapproved of things like feelings. He felt that the real sacred love was too marvelous and dignified to be praised by others. He didn't like to be superficial. The two of them were just looking for what they wanted under the guise of love. Hua Jin asked, "Do you like her?" Qin didn't say anything. Hua Jin bumped his arm and said, "Answer my question." He asked in return, "If someone likes you, must you reciprocate?" Hua Jin laughed and quickly tried to distance himself from her. "I didn't say that." Qin smiled. "I don't think I like her. I just feel that she's a little interesting. Sometimes, I also feel that she's very cute." For many years, he hadn't had such a girl who brought him a different kind of joy. Hua Jin snorted and said, "If you don't like her, you should break up with her as soon as possible. Based on my understanding of her, she's such a coward. She would never confess to you so early. If this situation continues, she might spend a few years of her youth on you. If you don't like her, don't waste her time. However, I feel that feelings can still be nurtured. I feel that Liang Yin isn't bad." Qin hissed. "So, are you trying to matchmake us or dissuade us?" "I didn't say anything. It's your decision. I'm just a bystander." As he spoke, Hua Jin said enviously, "It's so nice that there's still such a simple-minded girl in this world. If you like someone, you'll like him. You'll like him silently, and your heart will fluctuate because of his every move. I haven't felt this way in a long time." Unrequited love was the truest feeling in the world. She liked him. Perhaps because of his smile, the world would suddenly become bright and sunny. Perhaps because of his words, the world would become stormy. Chapter 39:77. When Qin heard this, his gaze went blank for a moment. Liang Yin returned home, took a shower, brushed her teeth, and lay on the bed. She opened the gift box on the stool, and inside were 3 pink champagne roses. These were the flowers that the restaurant had given her for dinner, and Qin had given them to her. To her, these were undoubtedly gifts from Qin. She took a vase from the balcony. After washing it clean, she put in some nutrient soil and filled it with water. Then, she carefully placed the 3 champagne roses into the vase. This was the first time in her life that she had received flowers from someone. Even though she knew that roses like these were hard to grow and would wither easily, she still couldn't bear to throw them away. Instead, she took care of them carefully. She placed them on the windowsill. She leaned on the table and stared at the blooming roses in the vase in a daze. This was the time when the roses were at their most beautiful. She was mesmerized for a moment. The next day, she rushed to the set to sign in. As Qin had arranged for her to join the set, the crew members were especially enthusiastic about her. After arranging for her to stay in a hotel, she was pleasantly surprised to find that she was staying in the room next to Hua Jin's. They were neighbors again. This was good. At least, staying next to Hua Jin meant that they were more familiar with each other. On the set, to her, everything was unknown and unfamiliar. Although she had acted for Hua Jin before, now that she had returned to her role, the experience was different. After putting away her luggage, she took out the vase from the tightly wrapped plastic bag and carefully placed it on the windowsill, trying to let it bask in more sunlight. The doorbell suddenly rang. Liang Yin turned around in confusion, thinking that it was Hua Jin. She immediately went up and opened the door, only to see a stranger. No, she was sluggish for a few seconds before she reacted quickly. She recognized the man in front of her as the general manager she had seen at the department store yesterday. "Why are you here?" Liang Yin's face quickly revealed a conflicted expression. It was obvious that she was still brooding over what had happened yesterday. She wasn't a petty person, but she wasn't a magnanimous person either. She would easily throw the unpleasant matter to the back of her mind. Liang Yin asked impatiently, "What are you doing?" "Miss Liang, hello. It's like this. For yesterday's unpleasant matter, we would like to sincerely apologize to you once again. This is a small token of our appreciation. We hope you can accept it." As the manager spoke, the assistant behind him respectfully presented a gift box. The assistant opened the gift box and saw that the exquisite packaging was covered with a thick layer of pink rose petals, and in the middle lay a small but extremely bright jewelry box. The reason why it was described as resplendent was because the surface of the box was inlaid with sparkling and translucent crystals. Liang Yin looked at them suspiciously. "What's this?" "This is a small gift from us. We hope you'll accept it. Intentions, you'll know when you open it." Liang Yin carefully opened the box, only to see a pile of purple pearl earrings inside. Her expression froze. "Jewels? I hope you like it." The manager's expression was as sincere as it could be. However, Liang Yin did not seem to like it, nor was she happy. Chapter 3978. You're just trying to please Qin Zhou. For some reason, Liang Yin was a little angry. Actually, be it the Bulgari store manager or the manager of the shopping mall, they were all very nice people. "You don't feel guilty at all for wrongly accusing me. We're sincerely apologizing to you." Liang Yin sneered. "Humph, you're apologizing because you're afraid of Qin Zhou. You're afraid that he'll catch up with his drama. You're apologizing not because you respect me, but because you're afraid of taking responsibility." When the manager heard this, he felt very wronged. "Oh my God, isn't that nonsense? Qin Zhou already said that you're his woman. How could they dare to offend you? Miss Liang, please understand. You've indeed suffered a lot yesterday, and there were many unpleasant things. I hope that you can calm down and don't take this matter to heart." Liang Yin had no choice but to close the door. The manager immediately blocked the door shamelessly. It was obvious that he wouldn't give up until Liang Yin said, "I forgive you." His face was distorted from sticking to the door, but the manager still didn't intend to give up. "Miss Liang, it's like this." The manager took a deep breath and started to nag. "After you and President Qin left yesterday, I deeply understood the seriousness of this matter. We've already issued a notice to fire the store manager of the Bulgari store and will never hire her again. We swear that if something like this happens again." Liang Yin didn't know what he said or how long he had been talking. Anyway, she only felt that there were countless flies buzzing around her ears. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and said impatiently, Fine. I forgive you. Can you not be like a fly, buzzing around my ear nonstop?" Calluses were about to form on her ears. The manager was wild with joy. "Really? You're really willing to forgive me? As long as you disappear from my sight immediately, I'll forgive you. Please stop bothering me, okay?" As soon as she finished speaking, the manager didn't dare to say anything else. He immediately disappeared from her sight with his assistant. Liang Yin was dumbfounded. She didn't know how terrifying Qin Zhou's pressure was, or if Qin Zhou had already pressured the department store without her knowledge. Otherwise, why would the manager come all the way here to ask for her forgiveness? Qin Zhou. In the room, Liang Yin sat curiously in front of Hua Jin. She was puzzled as to why Qin Zhou had such a terrifying influence. At the mention of Qin Zhou, Hua Jin was obviously a little speechless. "I noticed that your recent topics revolve around him. As the saying goes, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win every battle." Liang Yin said matter-of-factly, "If I don't understand him, how can I get what he likes?" Qin Zhou used to be a top manager, especially after he made Gu Xingzi famous. Thanks to Gu Xingzi's influence, he managed to get more resources in his hands. Gu Xingzi. Liang Yin was suddenly a little stunned. Didn't Gu Xingzi pass away? Hua Jin sighed as he said this. Chapter 3979. Gu Xingzi was a superstar created by Qin Zhou. Ever since Gu Xingzi's debut, he had never experienced any low points. The two of them made each other what they were, and, at the same time, made each other. In private, the two of them put aside their work relationship, but at the same time, they were very close friends. Qin Zhou rarely used the term close friends to describe someone. Gu Xingzi was the same. The relationship between the two of them was no different from that of a family member. Gu Xingzi's death was a huge blow to Qin Zhou. He used to be humorous and loved to joke, but now he seemed to be a little quiet. It was even difficult for him to open up to others. Gu Xingze was really the youth of a generation. Hua Jin sighed at the same time. I used to envy Gu Xingze, but now I feel that it's a pity for him. I've always heard that he had depression. Is that right? Yes. Hua Jin laughed at himself. Actually, I'm not surprised. This is a playground. As you can see, when you're filming, no matter how bad your mood is, you have to put your heart and soul into the role. I once saw a very popular actress. Before an interview, because of her low EQ, she kept crying in the waiting room. When the cameramen and reporters arrived, she wiped her tears and touched up her makeup. When she faced the camera, she laughed and chatted. When the interview ended, she broke down and cried again. At that time, I felt that such a person's life was really too painful. She couldn't even live her life as she wanted. Then why did she still accept the interview? Because it was her job. Hua Jin continued. When you enter the industry and become famous, it's not up to you to decide whether you want to advance, retreat, or leave. Fortunately, I have a very good manager who can protect me. At least, when I'm feeling down, I don't have to pander to anyone and I don't have to look at anyone's eyes. It's more free. Yes. Liang Yin asked again. Have you thought about when you'll end your acting career? Didn't I tell you before? Hua Jin said, when I earn enough money to travel around the world, I'll decide to quit the entertainment industry. You still have a utopia in your heart. Liang Yin smiled. I thought that everyone in this industry, no matter who they are, would want to strive to be the best. I used to think so too. Hua Jin sighed. But shouldn't people live for themselves? In fact, I'm quite clear about life. Sometimes, no matter how rich you are, you can't get the life you want. I feel that this kind of life is not what I want. So, since I know what I want, why should I be reluctant to leave things that I shouldn't? When Liang Yin heard this, she couldn't help but be a little absent-minded. The next day, Huanyu office building. Qin Zhou specially sent a car to pick up Liang Yin and officially sign the contract. In the conference room, Qin Zhou and a few of Huanyu's higher-ups were all present. Liang Yin sat down, and Qin Zhou let her have a look at the contract. Liang Yin also looked at it carefully. When she reached the revenue-sharing part of the agreement, she was a little surprised. Qin Zhou had signed a 50-50 split with the company. Didn't you say it's a 30-70 split? Qin Zhou smiled and asked, didn't I also say that I won't personally manage artists anymore? Liang Yin was stunned for a moment before she suddenly laughed. You don't keep your word. Chapter 3980. You're going back on your word. You're still pretending to be innocent. Qin Zhou was annoyed and put out his cigarette. Is there a problem? You can bring it up now. After all, we haven't officially signed a contract yet. Any suggestions can still be discussed. You make it sound like I'm signing a contract to sell myself. That's true. Qin Zhou pointed at the contract and said, this is a contract to sell yourself. I'm only concerned about one thing, Liang Yin asked tentatively. If I want to fall in love one day, can I be free to do so? Qin Zhou smiled and said meaningfully, that depends on who it is. Looks like it's really an overbearing contract. You don't even have the basic freedom to fall in love. Qin Zhou snorted. So, it's not too late for you to back out now. Liang Yin pursed her lips and smiled, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she grabbed the pen and signed her name directly. At the same time, she pressed her thumbprint. Qin Zhou suddenly asked, why do you want to enter this industry? Liang Yin raised her head and looked at him seriously. She answered honestly, I just want to become a better woman. Only by becoming better could she be a match for him. She couldn't muster up the courage to confess because she felt that she didn't have the confidence to be in a relationship with such a good man. Only when they were on the same level could their relationship last longer. Liang Yin felt that she wasn't good enough, so she wanted to work hard to become better. I'm done signing. Qin Zhou saw that she was done signing and took the contract over. He stamped the official seal and signed his name. A few of the higher-ups lowered their heads and looked down. They kept sizing up Qin Zhou and Liang Yin. At first, when they heard that Qin Zhou was going to make a comeback and manage an artist again, they were puzzled. After all, with Qin Zhou's current qualifications, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was highly respected in Huanyu. As an honorary director of Huanyu, he didn't need to manage an artist personally. However, when Qin Zhou mentioned that he wanted to sign Liang Yin, they were puzzled. What kind of artist would make Qin Zhou want to manage her personally? Hence, they wanted to see what kind of newcomer would make Qin Zhou personally come. In the end, looking at it, it seemed like it was not as shocking as they had imagined. In this industry, there were many stunning beauties. Huan Yu's #1 actress, Yin Shishir, was considered to be in a semi-retired state. However, with her beautiful looks and heaven-defying acting skills, it was still difficult for anyone to shake her position. However, after Yin Shishir, the female artistes were indeed lacking in stamina. Huan Yu's higher-ups also wanted to groom a few more female celebrities as Yin Shishir's successors. Liang Yin was indeed a good choice, but it wasn't enough to make Qin Zhou personally bring her over. Therefore, some people suspected that there must be something going on. However, Qin Zhou would never sleep with an actress, so there was definitely no relationship between the two of them. Could it be Qin Zhou is interested in Liang Yin, or was it some special relationship? They couldn't figure it out. Qin Zhou stood up and said, "All right, it's getting late. Let's have a meal together." The group immediately agreed with a smile. Chapter 30-981. During the dinner, Qin Zhou and Liang Yin finalized a few matters. Before the official announcement of her debut, the packaging team proposed a plan to create hype. Qin Zhou specifically asked for Liang Yin's opinion. After all, as a newcomer and inexperienced, it would be difficult for her to raise the price when she took on scripts and activities in the future. Although Liang Yin's acting skills were good and her acting skills were good, Qin Zhou had also roughly scanned through the scenes that she edited. Her acting skills were indeed on point, and she was very intelligent and talented. This point was really commendable. It showed that she had good qualifications, and her future potential was limitless. But in this industry, there were a lot of talented people, and there was never a lack of talent in acting. Under this premise, she had to make a name for herself before she could get attention. Only by getting attention could Liang Yin's acting skills and potential be discovered by the audience. Fame in the entertainment industry needed something to talk about. Only with something to talk about would there be exposure. In such a messy industry, exposure was what they really needed to work on. The packaging team proposed to create hype about Liang Yin and Hua Jin's relationship. At first, Qin Zhou did not agree. However, creating hype about a relationship was a tried and tested method. In the entertainment industry, there were not only contractual couples, but also contractual couples. As the name implied, they were together for benefits. On the surface, they pretended to be a loving couple, but in reality, they were having their own private affairs. The public relations team repeatedly promised that they would not create any scandals that were too outrageous. Only then did Qin Zhou relent and let the team come up with a proposal. After he read it and found that there were no problems, they would talk about the next step. Before her debut, Qin Zhou had also finalized a training schedule for Liang Yin. Dancing and singing were the two areas that she would focus on. If Liang Yin could be groomed into an all-round artist, that would be the best. In addition, her ability to react on the spot and her acting skills were also part of the training. For this, Qin Zhou specially contacted a famous academic professor to guide Liang Yin. At that time, Liang Yin found out that the professor that Qin Zhou contacted for her cost a lot of money per lesson. It was 6 figures per lesson. She was stunned. 6 figures. What kind of concept was that? It was said that the professor was Li Changde, an honorary professor of Beijing Film Academy. He had groomed 3 best actors and 2 best actresses. In the industry, he was definitely well respected. Many A-list celebrities were in awe of him. Moreover, he was also a consultant for many movies. If it weren't for Qin Zhou's face, even if it was hundreds of thousands per class, he might not have taken a fancy to Liang Yin. There were so many talented newcomers, and not everyone could catch his eye. After finalizing the itinerary, Liang Yin's life began to get busy. She began to travel between the set, the company, and the film academy. She had met Li Zhangde once and performed a set of scenes from the literary film Years Like Water. Li Zhangde was a little surprised when he saw it, but he was not very satisfied. Her acting wasn't bad, but there were a lot of details that were lacking. He thought that Liang Yin was a science student, so he was very strict with her. Seeing that she even had problems with the basic positioning, Li Zhangde criticized her severely. Liang Yin gritted her teeth and accepted it. She did not say anything. She was not a science student. She felt that since it was a class, it would not be bad to be strict. In the end, he was scolded badly by the end of the class. Chapter 3982. This Legenda is too fierce. Every time they returned to the hotel, Liang Yin would start complaining. She knew that Legenda was an excellent mentor. The stricter he was, the better it would be for her. However, Legenda's expectations of her were too high. She had already tried her best, but he was always able to pick out the smallest mistakes in her performance. People aren't born to be good at acting. You're lucky to have such a good mentor like Legenda to help you hone your acting skills. What about me? At this point, Liang Yin couldn't help but be curious. Didn't Qin Zhou hire a mentor to teach you acting? It's not like my previous manager was Qin Zhou. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy such treatment. Hua Jin paused and continued. When I first started, when I wasn't famous, my company wasn't willing to spend so much money on me. The vast majority of companies would rather spend money on plastic surgery for their artists than hire a good teacher. After all, it's fine as long as I'm good looking. Later on, when I became famous and transferred to Huanyu, I didn't have the spare time to receive acting coaching. When Liang Yin heard this, she couldn't help but be suspicious. Have you had plastic surgery before? No, I didn't say that I have. Liang Yin felt that it was unbelievable. She couldn't help but reach out to touch his facial features. Then, she reached out and pinched Hua Jin's nose hard. It hurts. Hua Jin was in so much pain that he wanted to slap her hand away. Liang Yin tried to pinch his chin again. Yes, it was solid. It was obviously not hyaluronic acid. I really didn't have plastic surgery. Finally, this doubt was cleared up. Hua Jin's looks belonged to the category that defied the natural order. Everyone said that Hua Jin was a classic handsome man. When it came to acting in ancient costumes, Hua Jin said that he was the second best. No one would dare to say that they were the best. There was no doubt that he was the #1 handsome man in ancient costumes. Therefore, there were many speculations about him. Many people suspected that he had undergone plastic surgery. Hua Jin was too lazy to answer the reporter's questions. Occasionally, he would pinch his face to express his disdain. So your facial features are real. Liang Yin had always suspected that he had undergone plastic surgery. After all, there were often celebrities in this industry who had undergone plastic surgery. It wasn't unreasonable for her to be so suspicious. Hua Jin glanced at her. I even suspected that you had plastic surgery. What kind of world is this now? Do people suspect plastic surgery just because they're good looking? Because that's the trend now. There are too many people who have undergone plastic surgery. That's true. However, I don't know why plastic surgery is becoming more and more popular now. But why do so many people who have plastic surgery look like monsters who came out of the abortion line? As Liang Yin spoke, she felt a little puzzled. Say, in the past, when plastic surgery was first developed, those who underwent plastic surgery were more natural and exquisite. Now that I look at it, they all have the same face. They had a snake-like face, cheeks that seemed to have been shaved by a knife, a chin that looked like a shoehorn, large eyes, and a high nose. Liang Yin didn't reject plastic surgery. Everyone had the right and freedom to become a beautiful person. However, wouldn't it be creepy if they all had the same face? Chapter 3983. Yangmi has had plastic surgery? She had thought that Yangmi was born with it, but it was true that Yangmi had indeed become invisible recently. Hua Jin nodded. Yes, most people in the industry have had plastic surgery to look better on camera. I think her lips look a little unnatural, but if you don't look closely, there's nothing wrong with them. Hua Jin began to reveal. Her lips have had surgery to make them pouty. She even had a smile at the corner of her mouth. Her dimples were also done through surgery. Liang Yin was speechless. Then, she started to gossip. Has Yin Shishir had plastic surgery before? What do you think? I think she's very pretty and her facial features are very natural. It doesn't look like she's gone under the knife. Most importantly, I feel that her temperament is really good. She's a goddess. Of course, Shishir is a natural beauty. For some reason, when Liang Yin praised Yin Shishir, Hua Jin was especially pleased. He was even happier than when she praised himself. I've seen her in The Green Apple. Although at that time, teen films were always criticized, this movie between her and Gu Xingze is simply a classic teen film. I don't think anyone can surpass it. Hua Jin said, a good script, a good cast, good post-production, good publicity, and the audience's support. All these factors combine to make this movie a success. Her acting is more natural, and there's no feeling of pretense. It's easy to get into her role. When she cries, I can even feel her real heartache. Just like Yang Mi's crying scene, it feels like she's moaning for no reason. There were many scenes where I felt that she couldn't cry and just squeezed out a few tears to appease the audience. Ha ha ha. Hua Jin couldn't stop laughing. Actually, I don't hate Yang Mi, but I don't like her either. But as you said, I still have to prove her innocence. What? In the past, Yang Mi's acting skills were very good. After all, she was an acting student and was also Su Ke's favorite student. When she first debuted, her acting skills were still very good. Later on, perhaps because there were too many fillers on her face, her expression became more stiff. Moreover, her MAC is filled with hyaluronic acid. Her crying and laughing are not very natural and look fake. It's not because of her acting skills. If that's the case, then I've wronged her. She sighed. The female celebrities from the previous generation are the ones who are truly peerless. That's the filter of that era. It's blurry and hazy, and the facial lines aren't very deep. If we were to use high-definition cameras to take pictures, the pimples and acne would all be exposed. As he spoke, Hua Jin continued, however, I pay more attention to temperament. I think that in terms of temperament, no one can compare to our Sure. Good. Your Sure is the most beautiful and has the best temperament. That's the truth. The two of them chatted in the room and even finished memorizing the script. Perhaps it was too boring. The two of them started gossiping and only went to bed when it was very late. Li Zhangda's class was held once a week. Qingzhou obviously spent a lot of money on Liang Yin. One class cost 100,000 yuan. It was said that Qingzhou was a big shot and gave her a friendly discount. Chapter 3984. Initially, Li Zhangda was moved by Qingzhou's sincerity. Later on, he really felt that Liang Yin was a good seedling, so he taught her seriously. During the 5th period, Liang Yin thought that she would have to spend another period in Li Zhangda's bubble. She did not expect Li Zhangda to praise her for the first time. You acted well. Li Zhangda gave such a comment. When Liang Yin heard it, she was instantly overjoyed. Don't underestimate these words. Coming from Li Zhangda's mouth, it was a huge compliment. But don't be too smug, Li Zhangda muttered. Young people, don't get complacent just because of a little praise. Keep your cool and think about the details. It's rare for you to praise me. Can't you let me be happy for a while? Liang Yin said coquettishly. After a few classes, she left a good impression in front of Li Zhangda. Li Zhangda also gradually liked this humble student. She did not hold back and gave everything she had. The profession of acting is actually derived from dramas. In the past, when there were no dramas or movies, a stage was set up. A few people dressed in clothes would sing and dance on it, and the audience would be entertained. Later on, the film industry in China started to develop. The first drama, A Mouthful of Vegetable Pancakes, was filmed, and there was such a beginning. After a pause, Li Zhangda continued, life is like a play, and a play is like life. A truly good actor can act out all kinds of situations in the world. Whatever he or she acts, he or she can act out. Aside from some people having talent, most of them have to learn. Look, in the past, there was an artist who, in order to draw a good character, sat on a chair on the street and observed the expressions of everyone passing by. Only then could he draw out the spirit of the character. First of all, you have to know what you are acting as and what you look like. For example, if you're acting as a police officer, you have to portray that righteousness. Carefully analyze the character's personality and expression. Through daily observation, life experience is also an important part. Otherwise, why would some people go to a mental hospital to experience mental illness for a few weeks? Li Zhangda continued. Also, the most important thing is that you have to understand the script carefully understand the character's psychology, and be immersed in the character. To be an actor, one must first get into character. Otherwise, it would be impossible to expect the audience to get into character. Also, you're still lacking in the basics of your lines. You should practice more. You should know that none of my students use post-production dubbing. It's only in China that we have dubbing actors. In the past, the foreign dubbing actors were all actors. When they dubbed for animations and foreign translated films, they would read their own lines. In China, look at the youngsters nowadays. Some of them can't even speak Mandarin well and come to act. What a disgrace. It was obvious that Mr. Li was dissatisfied with the current entertainment industry. After listening to his complaints, Liang Yin ended the class for the day. Qin Zhou happened to be free, so he took her back to the hotel. Along the way, Liang Yin was very happy. She boasted to Qin Zhou, "Today, the teacher performed for me. He said that I've improved a lot." Qin Zhou laughed. "That's a good thing." "That's right. You don't know how difficult it is to get him to perform alone." As Liang Yin spoke, she probed, "Say, this class costs 100,000 yuan. Are you going to pay for it?" "The company will pay." Chapter 3985. The company will pay for it. Then, Liang Yin was a little worried. "What if I can't earn it back?" Qin Zhou smiled. "The artists I take care of only earn too much. There's no such thing as not earning enough money. Usually, packaging a newcomer from debut to fame will cost at least a few million. This is nothing. You don't have to worry about it." Liang Yin swore, "I will act well and not let you down. The most important thing is not to let yourself down." Okay. A week after signing the contract, the signing fee was transferred to Liang Yin's account on time. Early in the morning, Liang Yin had just woken up when she heard a ding from her phone. She picked up her phone and saw that there was a message showing that money had been transferred to her account. She opened it to take a look and was so shocked that she sucked in a breath of cold air. So much money. She had thought that 1 million was already a sky-high price. She did not expect Qin Zhou to be so generous. Just the signing fee alone was 5 million. 5 million for a newcomer. What kind of concept was that? Huajin's signing fee was only 100,000. It was obvious that he had good potential and could be packaged into a money tree in the future. It was impossible for a normal newcomer to sign a contract with a company like Huanyu. Even if they were to sign a contract, most of them would be supported by rich people. Moreover, Huanyu would be given a considerable amount of packaging fee to package the artist. Liang Yin was the only one who had made her debut with nothing and even received a signing fee of 5 million yuan. Liang Yin was so shocked that she was dumbstruck. She called Huajin. "Holding her phone," she said in surprise, "Huajin, I'm rich. 5 million. When Huajin found out that she had received a signing fee of 5 million, he was envious and jealous. He said angrily, "How can a newcomer like you get a signing fee of more than 5 million? Ah, jealousy makes people ugly." Liang Yin smiled and said, "Are you envious? But it's really strange. Did Qin Zhou open the back door?" "Why do you say that?" "Because," Qin Zhou said incredulously, "when Gu Xingzi signed with Huanyu, he only got 10 million. You're equivalent to half of his." But at that time, he had just debuted. In that era, 10 million was far more valuable than 10 million now, right? "That's true." After a pause, Huajin continued, "However, in the current market, there are almost no newcomers who can get this amount of signing money." He said suspiciously, "Could it be that Qin Zhou has an unspoken rule? Don't talk nonsense." Liang Yin snorted. "Are you jealous? Could it be that Qin Zhou is interested in you?" Liang Yin blushed. "How is that possible? Why not? Then I really can't figure out why Qin Zhou would give you so much for signing the contract." "All right, don't dwell on this issue. I don't care. Everyone who saw it has a share. Give me 2 million. "No, stingy," Huajin said eloquently. "If I didn't bring you into this industry, would you have so much money? How does it feel to become a nouveau riche overnight?" Liang Yin held her phone like it was a treasure. "It feels like I've become a nouveau riche overnight. When you debut, you'll earn even more." Chapter 3986. Who would want to have a feast like yours? Hua Jin paused for a moment and immediately smiled. Unless it's a year-long feast, then it would be reasonable. Liang Yin immediately cried out in grievance. Are you a vampire? A year-long feast? Based on your appetite, it's going to be Michelin every day. How can I survive? I don't care. 1 month. Half a year. 2 months. Half a year. 3 months. Hua Jin raised his eyebrows and slammed the table. All right, deal. Liang Yin was stunned. He wasn't going to call her that. She seemed as she had been tricked, but since she had said it, she had to do it. The next day, Liang Yin immediately made an appointment with Hua Jin and Qin Zhou at a restaurant. She planned to treat them to a feast as a celebration. As soon as he heard that Liang Yin had invited Qin Zhou, Hua Jin immediately felt that there was an ulterior motive. Could it be that this guy wanted to use their relationship to get closer to Qin Zhou? Hua Jin's scenes ended early, but Liang Yin's scenes were delayed by the director until very late. This was a small misunderstanding. It turned out that Hua Jin wanted to have an early dinner, so he told the director in advance that he had something to do in the evening and hoped that he could finish his scenes early. In the film crew, this was a privilege that he had. Recently, the director had been quite satisfied with Hua Jin's performance. In addition, he was in a good mood recently and was pleased with his success, so he agreed readily. Who would have thought the director had scheduled his scenes to be filmed first, but in the end, the scenes of the other supporting roles were delayed. In the end, Liang Yin's scene with the female lead was scheduled for last. By the time they finished filming, it was already past 5 p.m. If Hua Jin hadn't made a call to the restaurant, they wouldn't have been able to keep their reserved seats. In the end, there were even later scenes. Qin Zhou said that he would be late for a company meeting. In the end, they had to wait for an hour. Liang Yin and Hua Jin sat in the dining room and looked around. Seeing that Qin Zhou hadn't come yet, they were a little disappointed. When exactly is he coming? Liang Yin asked Hua Jin curiously. Is he always this busy? Yes. Hua Jin nodded and said, after all, Qin Zhou is one of Huan Yu's higher-ups. He's in charge of Huan Yu's affairs, so he must be very busy. I see. Liang Yin lowered her head. At this moment, Hua Jin happened to look past her and saw the woman who walked into the restaurant and slowly walked towards the booth. Isn't this Li Jing? Li Jing? Liang Yin furrowed her brows. That name sounds familiar. I think I've heard it somewhere before. Are you stupid? Hua Jin reminded her. This is the Li Jing who was sent flying by the director before you joined the cast. She was the one who was supposed to play the role of Ubisoft. I remember now. Is she the woman you mentioned before who got pregnant and had an abortion, which delayed the filming process? Yes. Liang Yin felt inexplicably guilty and didn't dare to look back. Where did she go? Did she see me? Why are you so guilty? I don't know. It feels weird. She's coming over. As soon as Hua Jin said this, Liang Yin was like an ostrich, lowering her head even more guiltily. Hua Jin was even more depressed. Chapter 39:87. Oh, so it's Hua Jin. Even though Hua Jin disliked her, he still smiled politely. Hello. Why are you here? Are you having your meal here too? As Li Jing said this, she turned around and glanced at Liang Yin. Her expression changed. She felt that this woman, who had her head lowered, was strangely familiar, but she couldn't recall her name. After a long while, she suddenly got a shock and her brows furrowed even deeper. It was her. Some time ago, one of the crew members she got to know had sent her a photo that was secretly taken of Liang Yin on the set. One was the side of her face, the other was the front. Even though it was a little blurry, Liang Yin's facial features were still recognizable. Hence, Li Jing recognized at one glance that the woman sitting in front of her was Liang Yin. It's you, Liang Yin. Li Jing immediately curled the corners of her mouth, smiled, and greeted him generously. Seeing that she couldn't hide anymore, Liang Yin could only brace herself and raise her head. She forced a smile and said, Hello, Senior Li Jing. Ha ha ha. I don't think you should call me Senior. Li Jing didn't know why, but she felt that the stiff smile on Liang Yin's face was extremely dazzling. It was a little forced, like a smile that wasn't a smile. She even felt that Liang Yin's smile had a hint of malice and mockery. Could it be that she was looking down on her? Originally, Li Jing had some groundless guesses about Liang Yin's role as the female lead. However, when she saw Liang Yin smile and the way she deliberately avoided it, she felt that it was extremely strange. You? Just the two of you? Hua Jin immediately said. We even invited Qin Zhou, but he'll be a little late. We're waiting for him. So it's President Qin. But Hua Jin, why did you bring Liang Yin along when you're having a meal with your manager? Hua Jin immediately said. Liang Yin is also an artist under Qin Zhou. What is it? Li Jing immediately looked surprised. Didn't Qin Zhou already say that he won't be personally leading people? Why did you sign another artist now? Hua Jin immediately turned lukewarm. I'm not qualified to ask about CEO Qin's matters. Hearing this, Li Jing also felt awkward. She casually said something and smiled at Liang Yin. Aya, you're so lucky to be with President Qin. With that, he immediately left with his tail between his legs. Hua Jin had said that to protect Liang Yin. On one hand, he was reminding Li Jing that Liang Yin was Qin Zhou's woman and she shouldn't be disrespectful. On the other hand, he was telling her that they didn't welcome her. Li Jing looked very embarrassed. Liang Yin watched Li Jing's departing figure with lingering fear in her heart. She did not say anything. The way Li Jing glared at her just now was so scary. Although he was smiling, the look in his eyes was as if he wanted to cut off a piece of her flesh. It was too terrifying. After Li Jing sat down at a table by the window, she didn't feel good about it. Meeting Liang Yin in this restaurant was totally unexpected. However, when she saw Liang Yin, she felt a sense of humiliation. She had always suspected that her role had been snatched by someone else. She didn't believe that the director would fire her over such a small matter. Someone must have done something behind the scenes. Hence, she started to suspect Liang Yin. She suspected that this unknown newcomer had stolen her role. Chapter 3988. The most important thing wasn't how good the show was. It was because Hua Jin was the main lead and one of the investors was Huan Yu. This meant that from the moment the show was broadcast, it would definitely be on the hit list. Moreover, Huan Yu would spare no expense in promoting the show. This meant that the show would have more exposure and popularity. What she lacked the most was popularity and popularity. What she lacked the most was popularity and popularity. If she could borrow Hua Jin's popularity and gain some popularity, then it would be self-evident that it would be beneficial to her. The role of Gu Bunyo wasn't very important in the show, but she was definitely an important character. Moreover, she had a good personality and would definitely attract a lot of fans. She was counting on this role to take her career to the next level. She hadn't expected that she would have almost completed all the scenes for the role of Gu Bunyo, but in the end, the director had actually fired her. Moreover, all her scenes had been edited out and a new actress had been chosen. This new actress was Liang Yin. How could she not hate her? Li Jing sat in the booth. From her angle, she could see Liang Yin's face. She saw Liang Yin and Hua Jin sitting opposite each other on their phones, as if they were very familiar with Hua Jin. If it had been anyone else sitting in front of Hua Jin, they would have been nervous and at a loss. Just like her. With her status, she didn't have the right to sit at the same table as Hua Jin. Even if she did, she would be trembling with fear, afraid that she would make the slightest mistake and offend Hua Jin. On the other hand, Liang Yin acted as if she and Hua Jin were friends. Li Jing was even more suspicious of her relationship with Qin Zhou. Could it be that Liang Yin and Qin Zhou were very close? So Hua Jin also saw her as a close friend? After all, Qin Zhou was his superior. In that case, one couldn't help but wonder what methods Liang Yin had used to get to the top. Li Jing had been secretly observing them. She saw Hua Jin look at the time and suddenly call the waiter over. After a few words, the waiter started to serve the dishes one after another. It seemed that he didn't intend to wait any longer. The two of them chatted as they ate. Liang Yin looked out of the window from time to time, as if she was waiting for Qin Zhou. Not long after, Li Jing saw Liang Yin stand up and walk towards the bathroom. She also stood up and followed her into the bathroom. Liang Yin walked out of the bathroom. Just as she walked to the sink, she bumped into Li Jing. She was shocked and immediately reacted. The corners of her mouth stiffly twitched. Senior Li Jing, why are you here? Speak. Li Jing opened her mouth without warning, but her tone was like a judge. How did you get the role of Ubisoft? Liang Yin's heart trembled. She said, honestly, Hua Jin told me that the role of a bookie is being reselected. He was the one who helped me get the chance to audition. Humph. Li Jing didn't go straight to the point either. Instead, she beat around the bush and said sarcastically, I was wondering why the director sent me away for no reason. So it's because of you. You stole the role. Liang Yin was a little surprised when she heard this. It sounded as if Li Jing was suspecting that she was the one who had secretly snatched the role. Liang Yin felt that she had been misunderstood and felt a little wronged. Chapter 3989. But the problem was, didn't the director fire her out of anger because she had messed around in the production team and got pregnant and had to go for an abortion, causing many actors in the production team to wait for days in vain? Hua Jin was the one who told her about this, so it should be quite credible. Why did she push all the blame onto her just by opening and closing her mouth? Liang Yin smiled and immediately said, Senior Li Jing, you're wrong. I didn't steal your role. Or why do I have to steal it from you? I didn't use any underhanded means to get this role. A clean conscience is not afraid of a crooked shadow. I definitely didn't use any underhanded means to steal your role. With that, Liang Yin was about to leave. However, Li Jing blocked her footsteps with her body. A clean conscience is not afraid of a crooked shadow. A clean conscience is not afraid of a crooked shadow. Then shouldn't you explain why Huan Yu's top manager, Qin Zhou, no longer manages artists and retired behind the scenes? Why do you make a comeback and manage an unknown newcomer like you? At that time, her attitude was still very polite. If this Liang Yin was related to Qin Zhou, she would have a way to back off. Liang Yin pursed her lips and said, My relationship with CEO Qin isn't what you think. I don't know why he signed me, but it's my honor that he's willing to manage me. Also, CEO Qin is a very nice person. Please respect him and don't speculate about our relationship. Moreover, what was the relationship between her and Qin Zhou? Why should she report it to her? Both of you, Li Jing said coldly, did something happen? You don't have to hide it. Since we're both in this industry, don't think that you can hide your dirty tricks from others. To put it nicely, it's just a fig leaf. Who doesn't know how you got to where you are? But who asked you to have such a pretty face? Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to seduce Qin Zhou. But I'm really envious of you. What kind of man is Qin Zhou? He's so high and powerful. It's your fortune to be able to seduce him. Liang Yin was stunned. She didn't expect Li Jing to speculate about her relationship with Qin Zhou so maliciously. When it came to Qin Zhou, she immediately became serious. Please show some respect. She was extremely protective of Qin Zhou. She didn't want Qin Zhou to be judged as such an ugly person because of her. What? Li Jing smiled. Don't think that I don't know what kind of person Qin Zhou is. When he signed Yin Shishir, I heard that Yin Shishir had done a lot of dirty things in order to get to the top. What a pity for Mu Yaja of Xingyu Financial Group. Such a grand wedding was given to such a filthy woman. He must have been cuckolded by a thick stack. Pan. Liang Yin didn't even think before throwing a slap at her. She said angrily, You're not allowed to criticize Yin Shishir like that. She had only interacted with Yin Shishir a few times, but she had left a very good impression in her heart. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was a goddess. She had also seen the real Muyaja and Yin Shishir. It seemed that they were a very loving couple. She absolutely didn't believe that Yin Shishir was the unscrupulous and promiscuous woman that Li Jing said. Li Jing's blasphemy finally made her explode. Chapter 3990. During the trip to the hot spring, Yin Shishir and Mu Yaja had taken good care of her. Liang Yin also knew what kind of person Yin Shishir was. She was Mu Yaja's wife, the wife of the CEO of the Xingyu Corporation and the goddess of the entertainment industry. Her status was so high that no one could shake it. Li Jing's blasphemy finally made her explode. She was gauging the heart of a gentleman with her own mean measure. No one would believe that Yin Shishir would ignore Mu Yaja's protection and run off to flirt with another man. It was not that Qin Zhou was not as outstanding as Mu Yaja, but Yin Shishir did not have to do that. Moreover, Qin Zhou and Mu Yazhe were close friends. With Mu Yazhe's methods, there was nothing that could be hidden from him. He and Qin Zhou were so close, which only proved that there was nothing between Qin Zhou and Yin Shi. It was one thing for Li Jing to criticize her, but she even humiliated Qin Zhou and Yin Shi. This was something that Liang Yin could not stand. You're not allowed to humiliate Qin Zhou and Yin Shi like this, Liang Yin said angrily. Li Jing, I respect you as my senior, so I've always been very polite to you. But don't take my respect for you as a disrespect. People care about their dignity. Do you think others don't know why you were kicked out of the production team? Hearing this, Li Jing's face changed and turned ashen. What do you mean by that? Liang Yin snorted and said, almost everyone is spreading the news about you fooling around in the production team. There's no smoke without fire. You can't deny this, right? Li Jing's face darkened. What nonsense are you talking about? Whether it's nonsense or not, you know in your heart. Do you still need me to say it? Who did you hear this from? Liang Yin did not expose Hua Jin. She subconsciously felt that Li Jing was a rather sinister woman. She had also heard that anyone who could enter the entertainment industry definitely had some tricks up their sleeves. Therefore, she did not dare to reveal what Hua Jin had said. She only said, it's not just one person who said that. It's spread throughout the crew. Everyone doesn't say it on the surface, but in their hearts, they all know why the director sent you flying. So, don't suspect that I'm the one who squeezed you out and stole your role. If you acted well and the director was satisfied, would he need to send you away? Li Jing immediately calmed down and sneered, but there was obvious sarcasm. Do you think I don't know? Was the director satisfied? My acting skills are not something a fledgling like you can compare to. Liang Yin didn't want to waste her breath arguing with this kind of person. She knew that Li Jing was mocking her. She must have followed the unspoken rules of the assistant director. She was no longer the Liang Yin of the past. She couldn't tell what was going on, but she couldn't be bothered to point it out. It wouldn't do her much good to argue with a narrow-minded person like Li Jing. So, she brought Qin Zhou into the picture. As you know, I'm an artist personally managed by Qin Zhou. Just like you said, if I really relied on underhanded means to get to where I am, aren't you afraid of offending me and Qin Zhou? Qin Zhou had previously told her, if they were to encounter any troublesome matters, then they would not hesitate to use his name to suppress the situation. In the entertainment industry, there was no situation that Qin Zhou couldn't handle. Sure enough, when she heard Qin Zhou's name, Li Jing did retreat. Just as Liang Yin thought, she really didn't dare to offend Qin Zhou. Chapter 3991. Liang Yin didn't want to be entangled with her any longer and returned to her seat. At that moment, Qin Zhou had already arrived. Liang Yin sat down slowly. When she saw Qin Zhou, she put aside the unhappiness from earlier and said to him, why are you so late? You still have the cheek to talk about Qin Zhou. Hua Jin complained. Didn't you go to the washroom? Why did you take so long? As he spoke, Hua Jin noticed from the corner of his eye that Li Jing had also returned to the seat next door with a gloomy face. He could not help but feel suspicious. Seeing that Li Jing had also returned from the direction of the restroom, he asked Liang Yin, was she in the restroom just now? Yeah, she didn't deliberately make things difficult for you, right? Hua Jin probed with concern. Liang Yin immediately smiled. She knows that I'm under Qin Zhou, so she wouldn't dare to make things difficult for me. She's like a fox assuming the tiger's might. Hua Jin laughed. When Qin Zhou heard this, he more or less understood what was going on. Meeting Li Jing here by chance, Li Jing knew about Liang Yin. She also knew that the role of Gu Huanyao had been replaced by Liang Yin. Losing such an important role was enough for Li Jing to be depressed. It was inevitable that she would wonder what methods Liang Yin had used to get the role. Qin Zhou kept this matter in his heart and planned to deal with this stumbling block later. Even though Li Jing wasn't an important role, it was necessary to show her who was the boss. Liang Yin hadn't officially debuted yet. This thorn in her side definitely couldn't be left alive. Let's eat, Qin Zhou said. Liang Yin and Hua Jin looked at each other and started eating. As Qin Zhou ate, he asked, the day after tomorrow is the little princess's birthday. Have you thought a gift? Hua Jin slapped his forehead. I haven't bought anything yet. I don't know what to buy. Soon, Yueyao would turn 3. This child's gift was the hardest to think of. Giving her jewelry would be too tacky. After all, the other party was a 3-year-old child. The gold and silver jewelry were all given by the older generation. Children would definitely like children's items, but this was the most difficult thing to imagine. Building blocks? The Mu family's children's room was filled with the most popular toys. Yueyao's second brother was the chairman of Luji Holdings. It could be said that all of Yueyao's childhood toys had been bought by Yu. He couldn't give her the toy. Then, Hua Jin probed Qinzhou. What do you plan to give her? I've already ordered a BJD doll a year in advance. It's made according to Yueyao's appearance. It's a private custom-made one. Hua Jin was speechless. That should be very expensive, right? It's not expensive. It's only $300,000. How could this be called not expensive? Hua Jin's lips twitched. This Qinzhou was too cunning. He had actually started planning this year's birthday gift a year in advance. This time, Hua Jin was very troubled. He didn't know what to give her. Liang Yin, who was standing beside him, was even more confused. A few $100,000 was not expensive? Poverty had limited her imagination. Hua Jin said, Liang Yin, let me ask you something. What? What gift did you wish to receive when you were young? When Liang Yin heard this, she looked a little uncomfortable. I didn't celebrate my birthday when I was young. Why? Because Liang Yin laughed dryly. No one remembers my birthday. After a while, I felt that birthdays were not necessary. Chapter 3992. She had grown up in a broken family and had never had a complete family, let alone a complete birthday. It was as if her birth wasn't worth celebrating. Hua Jin saw the loneliness on her face and thought that he had touched her sore spot. He said awkwardly, sorry. Why are you apologizing? Liang Yin hurriedly explained, actually, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't really care about birthdays, but if it were me, when I was young, she thought for a while and said slowly, no matter what the present is, as long as it's a birthday present, I will like it very much. Really? Yeah. Actually, it doesn't matter what the present is. What's important is the thought behind it. When you open the present, nothing can compare to the feeling of anticipation. It doesn't matter if it's expensive or not. What's important is the feeling of anticipation and surprise. Qinzhou looked deeply at Liang Yin, but didn't say anything. Instead, he pretended to ask casually, when is your birthday? I don't seem to remember. I don't really celebrate my birthday. Hua Jin asked Qinzhou. Qinzhou, help me think. What should I choose for Yueyao's birthday? Think about it yourself. Qinzhou snorted. Don't you think it's a little late to be thinking about a birthday present now? If you had prepared earlier, you wouldn't have been so flustered. Hua Jin ignored him and said to Liang Yin, accompany me to the mall tomorrow. Qinzhou immediately interrupted Hua Jin. She has class tomorrow. If you want to go, you can go by yourself. Hua Jin's face was full of resentment. Seeing Hua Jin's regretful face, Liang Yin couldn't help but laugh. How about this? I'm free tomorrow night, so I can accompany you to the mall. Great. Hooray. Hua Jin gave Qinzhou a look as if he was showing off. Liang Yin smiled, but the corners of her lips suddenly froze. She didn't know why, but she was inexplicably envious of Yueyao. There was even an element of jealousy. Of course, her jealousy wasn't malicious. She was simply envious that Yueyao was able to grow up in such a beautiful environment. Her mother doted on her, and her father doted on her. Everyone in the family treated her like a precious pearl. People were born different from each other. At night, when Qinzhou returned home, he passed by the study. He suddenly thought of something and walked into the study. There was a stack of documents on the desk. He casually picked it up and pulled out a few pages. He flipped to one of the pages. It was information about Liang Yin. On it was Liang Yin's ID number. With the ID number, Qinzhou obtained her date of birth. Generally speaking, the birth date on the identity certificate was usually the Gregorian calendar. Then, in terms of the lunar calendar, at the beginning of the next month. Qinzhou smiled, closed the file, and left the study. Hua Jin pestered Liang Yin to go to the mall to buy a gift. In the end, under Liang Yin's guidance, they finally chose a princess dress. Liang Yin liked it very much. Hua Jin didn't know how to choose a birthday gift for a girl. But when he saw that Liang Yin had chosen a dress that was suitable and beautiful, he bought it for 20,000 yuan. Chapter 3993. It happened to be the weekend on Yue Yao's birthday. Hua Jin originally wanted to bring Yue Yao along, but Yue Yao had to stay with the crew to catch up on the progress. Therefore, she asked Hua Jin to bring the gift she had prepared for her. Hua Jin did not expect Liang Yin to be so thoughtful as to secretly prepare a gift. He did not know what she had prepared. Along the way, his curiosity was about to explode. He stared at the gift box anxiously, but in the end, he restrained himself. When Hua Jin arrived at the Mu family's house with Liang Yin's gift, he realized that the gift from relatives and friends were piled up on the floor of the living room. Yin Shishir sat on the floor with Yue Yao in her arms, encouraging her to open the gifts. On the side, Yu Yu and Xiao Yichen provided assistance. After all, it was really tiring to open so many gifts. All the guests stood at the side with smiles on their faces, watching Yue Yao open the gifts. Everyone wanted to see if Yue Yao liked the gifts they had given her. Most of the guests were close to the Mu family. Some are senior executives of Xingyu Financial Group, and some are personal friends of Mu Yaja and Yin Shishir. Hua Jin glanced casually and saw a key lying quietly in a diamond-studded gift box at the side. This key was quite retro. It had a hollow rose pattern, like the style of a medieval European palace. He asked Yin Shishir curiously, "Who gave you this key?" Yin Shishir looked up and smiled helplessly. "Xiao Jie gave it to me." "He gave you a key?" Hua Jin was a little suspicious. He picked up the key, but could not figure out what it was. He did not know what the purpose of this key was. Yin Shishir said helplessly, "It's the key to a castle." Hua Jin was speechless. Gong Jie gave Yue Yao a castle? Had he always been so generous? The castle. I heard that it also comes with an island. Hua Jin mumbled, "What a big deal." Little Jie said that he only has one niece, so of course he has to give everything he has. However, I also joked that if he gave Yue Yao a castle and an island every year for her birthday, he would probably go bankrupt before Yue Yao reached adulthood. Yu Yu looked up and revealed a sinister smile on her exquisite face. "When it's my birthday, he'll give me a castle too. That'll be interesting." As far as he knew, Gong Jie owned 4 castles, 6 islands, and 3 private jets. Xiao Yichen had always been thinking about the super luxury yacht under Gong Jie's name. He planned to ask him for it on his birthday. Hua Jin carefully put the key, which was worth tens of millions of dollars, aside and rubbed his hands. At the same time, he passed the birthday gift that he and Liang Yin had prepared for Yin Shishir. "Here, this is the birthday gift I prepared for Yue Yao." Yin Shishir took it and realized that there were 2 gifts. "Why did you give me 2? One is for Liang Yin." "Liang Yin? Ah." Yin Shishir suddenly remembered. "Is she the girl who was with you on that vacation?" "Yeah. By the way, the gift is here. Why don't I see her?" Chapter 3994. Hua Jin said, "She's been busy recently and didn't have time to come, so she asked me to send the gift over. She said that she wanted to thank you for your hospitality and care last time. Also, she asked me to wish Yue Yao a happy birthday." As he spoke, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Did humans really have a sixth sense? At least, he felt that they did, because he really did feel that a terrifying demon king was standing behind him. Hua Jin turned around in horror, only to see Gong Jie standing behind him, looking down at him. Gulp. The sound of him swallowing his saliva. Yin Shishir looked at Hua Jin and then at Gong Jie, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She didn't know why, but whenever the two of them met, there would always be a tense confrontation. They couldn't get along well at all. Yin Shishir helplessly tugged at Gong Jie's sleeve and asked hesitantly, "Why are you staring at Hua Jin like that? It's as if you want to swallow him alive." Gong Jie turned around. When he faced Yin Shishir, he immediately smiled gently. "Why would I? Sister." When he faced Yin Shishir, his smile was as gentle as it was gentle. Hua Jin quickly diverted his attention. He squatted in front of Yue Yao and clapped his hands to attract her attention. "Uncle Hua Jin will open the present with you, okay?" Yue Yao shook her head and said in a childish voice, I can't open it anymore. I want to play with this. The little fellow was only 3 years old. She still had a childish voice. If one had to describe her, it would be like a kitten that had just been weaned off milk, squeaking and squeaking. She had just grown a new row of teeth, and when she smiled, it was as if she was encrusted with a beautiful shell. Because it was her birthday, Yin Shirshir helped Yue Yao change into a beautiful princess dress. The fluffy skirt wrapped around her fair and tender legs, and she wore a crown of the Ice Snow Princess series on her head. Anyone who saw her couldn't help but want to hug her. However, not everyone could hug this noble little princess. With Yu Yu and Xiaoi Chen around, and Mu Yazhe, Yue Yao's little feet usually didn't even have a chance to touch the ground. Yin Shirshir always said that even if she was a girl, she should not be so spoiled, lest she develop princess syndrome. In the end, what did Mu Yazhe say? Mu Yazhe's daughter is a princess syndrome? It was rare for Gong Jie to speak up from his brother-in-law's perspective. Our Yue Yao was born a little princess. What's wrong with being delicate like a princess? Yin Shirshir didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she also felt a little worried. With Mu Yazhe and Gong Jie, the two of them doted on Yue Yao so much. In addition, there were 2 older brothers. However, the most amusing thing was that Yin Shirshir didn't really spoil Yue Yao, but Yue Yao was the closest to her. Mu Yazhe was also very surprised. Once, he specially asked Yue Yao about everyone's ranking in her heart. Yue Yao's ranking was like this. Yin Shirshir was the most senior. Then, in order, Mu Yazhe, Yu Yu, Gong Jie, Xiaoi Chen, Hua Jin, Gong Jie felt especially wronged. He doted on Yue Yao as much as Mu Yazhe, so why was his ranking so low? Chapter 30, 995. Yin Shirshir accompanied Yue Yao the most. Even though she was a little strict with Yue Yao at times and played the role of the bad cop the most, Yue Yao was still the closest to her, which made many people jealous. Hua Jin immediately said, Then Uncle will take you to the yard to play, okay? Yue Yao immediately opened his little arms when he heard this. Many of the guests had brought their own children, and they were all playing in the yard. Yue Yao was tired of opening the gifts and gradually lost interest. Hence, he wanted to go to the yard to play. Hua Jin was about to carry him when Gong Jie squatted down and teased Yue Yao. Uncle will carry you, okay? Yue Yao looked at Hua Jin, then at Gong Jie. Suddenly, he threw himself into Hua Jin's arms. Gong Jie was speechless. He was completely stunned. Yue Yao actually didn't choose him. Didn't they say that his ranking was higher than Hua Jin's? How did this little girl change her attitude so quickly? Yin Shirshir laughed heartily. She leaned close to Gong Jie's ear and whispered, Some time ago, Hua Jin bought Yue Yao her favorite doll from the Frozen series. Gong Jie's face darkened even more. Weren't they just 2 dolls? What was so great about that? Hua Jin felt a sense of accomplishment when he saw Yue Yao throwing herself at him. He felt comforted, but at the same time, he felt a little worried. As petty as Gong Jie, he wouldn't hold grudge, right? Forget it. Anyway, he had always been at odds with Gong Jie. It wasn't a big deal to hold a grudge against him. Hua Jin carried Yue Yao and walked into the yard. Yin Shirshir had decorated the yard into a small garden. The flower bed was filled with Chinese roses, a swing, a seesaw, and a musical fountain. The yard was very big. Because it was a garden villa, the yard alone occupied more than 1,000 square meters. The children were playing hide-and-seek. Yue Yao also wanted to join in. However, Hua Jin was afraid of playing hide-and-seek. It was inevitable that he would have to hide and walk. If he accidentally fell and left a faint scar on the little princess's flawless body, Mu Yazhe and Gong Jie would definitely have the urge to chop him up. Hence, he was easy to coax. Fortunately, Yue Yao was easy to coax, and let her obediently sit on the swing and let Hua gently push her from behind. Standing at the balcony entrance, Yin Shirshir looked on with gratification. Turning her head, she saw Gong Jie staring at the swing too. Her lips curled into a smile. Have you been busy recently? I went back to the Gong residence a while ago. Gong Jie paused for a moment before replying nonchalantly. He wants to meet you. The smile on Yin Shirshir's lips froze when she heard that. Him? She didn't need to ask to know that him was probably referring to Gong Shaoying. It was too sudden. She didn't expect Gong Shaoying to take the initiative to ask to see her. Isn't he no longer in the Gong residence? He's back. Gong Jie continued. Of course, if you don't want to see him, I won't reply to him. Okay. Yin Shishi's tones suddenly turned cold. I wanted to see him too. This is the first and last time we're meeting as father and daughter. Rather than a meeting, it was more appropriate to call it a negotiation. It was time to put an end to the past grudges. She didn't want such a man to appear in her life again. It was about time to end everything once and for all.